Welcome to our Operations Committee meeting Tuesday, 23rd of June. A landmark day today. This is really the last time that we have our three waters reporting to this council, and largely the last time we had a big chunk of planning reporting to us as well. Both of those, mostly all of three waters, most planning will now be under Wisco, so it's quite a big change. Program non-folders. So right, we've got a lot to get through today, so we'll whistle into it. Health and safety. It's about the side door and the outside of St John's. Have any apologies? We know that we have one leave of absence. Do you have any conflict of interest declarations? No. We are recording and zooming live stream. Urgent business. So if we can start and go through the minutes of the meeting of 19th of May, initially just for any corrections. Page 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 and 16. Corrections. If we could do another quick page down through just for matters of interest. 5, 6, 7.
I wasn't at the last meeting, but I'm just reading the presentation, the core presentation, and talks about being a partner rather than a contractor. I just had a few people asking me lately, there's been up the Leamington Road, they were putting new culverts in and there were block culverts along the road, and residents asked the contractor, are you going to unblock those culverts with it? And they said no. So my question is, how does that marry up when you know, it says something here they're a partner and all this, but you know, to have a contractor on the job with a digger and then saying, oh no, there's culverts further on and they're not unblocking them, and the residents telling them that they're blocked. I haven't physically seen it myself, the couple of culverts, but I'm just asking. It just doesn't really make sense to me.
Well, Mr. Chair, I mean, I won't talk too much about the vernacular about partnerships and contractors, but generally they work into our authorisation. So if it's not part of the job that's been prescribed to them, then that's probably why they're saying that they won't do that, depending on the extent of it. If it was I would have an expectation that if it was a couple of hour job, that they would just move up the road and get it done. But if it was more extensive than that, then probably not. No, it needs to be programmed by the road team.
So we need to look at ourselves.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Page 8.
If I may, through the chair, 2.1, para 2.1 down the bottom there, is second paragraph. You talk about the district-wide security strategy being developed. I was just wondering if we've got any progress on that and where we are with that.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I didn't hear the question.
Have we got any progress on para 2.1? The second paragraph down there, it talks about a district-wide security strategy being developed. Have we got any progress on that, or where are we at with that?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Yeah. So it's probably, well, it is still in draft, and I haven't moved on it. I probably started putting it together about 6 months ago and haven't had made any movement on that. We aim to have it ready for the long-term plan so that when people start doing their activity management plans, they can start factoring in some of those costs. But if that's something that the councillors want to see, then I'm happy to share where I'm at the moment, knowing that it's not it's not an intended document for council. It's an intended document to help guide the teams when they're thinking about how do they make their sites safe and how do they keep the public safe on their sites, whether it be reserves, water sites, in the road. It's all relevant to each team.
It comes with associated costs.
Yes, that you'll see through the activity management plans.
Right.
But I'm happy to share it just informally, so that you can see the sorts of the structure of it and what it might look like.
If you're happy to do that, I would quite like to see that as informal, if that's all right. Thank you.
So,
Just carrying on from that about vandalism, the St Anne's Lagoon toilets and they were vandalised. A couple of people have said to me about how at Greta, the reserve there, when they actually allowed freedom camping in the area, the vandalism just dropped away. Joe Lowe was saying it was quite a big difference. So I'm wondering, is that a bit of an answer for like an area like St Anne's Lagoon where we put in these new toilets? If you've got people around, you don't tend to have more opportunity of people not doing it. So I'm just raising it as a question, really, could we do that? Because I don't know how you get security on a place like that. The cost of the enormous cameras and everything, where you might be able to by just allowing a bit of freedom camping there.
yeah, that's actually part of the security strategy is what we've been talking about. There are, I mean, the cameras are getting a lot smarter now. They're not quite as arduous in terms of the amount of information that they're trying to pull back. There's solar, but that doesn't stop people from damaging the cameras themselves before they go and do whatever it is they're going to do. And particularly the likes of the difference between Greta is that there's people there really often, whereas at Anne's Lagoon there's not. So it's just part and parcel of what we've got to work through and bring it back so that you can make some decisions on it.
Page 9, page 10.
I think it's 10. I just wanted to pop down page 10, right down the bottom there, a point that Councillor Scarlett raised in relation to hydrants being covered and things like that. And there was a comment in there from the issue as being considered for future long-term planning. Are we simply just leaving it at that, or are we acknowledging that that's something that we need to be potentially quite concerned about? Because it seemed to have just been left with that comment that it's being considered for future long-term plan, even though we acknowledge that there is an issue at the moment and no one appears to be over it, from myself or.
Where's that one sitting? Is that what it was with Fens, but I don't think it is anymore, is it? Is it with their contract or is it with our own inspections?
Well, Mr. Chair, I suppose it depends on where it is. And maybe we need to put it on the action sheet with an expected outcome, and then that will push us into a position where we've got to do something.
Yeah, that would be the preference, I think.
Yes, at the very least, we'll have a conversation with Fens about where that sits, whether it's the roading team, whether it's the new water company, or whether it's Fens.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I remember when Fens used to put that practice on.
Yeah.
A lot of them, you could always, you could drive by with the truck and see what, if it was overgrown or something at least, whether or not there's a survey done or something to at least get back to a report that we know they're all useful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I did raise it with Ben the other day, just as far as for this new water service to look into it from a legislative point of view, who is actually responsible. And so, but I think it would actually be good still to be put on our action sheet, so it puts a bit more pressure on them to come up with a plan.
We're happy with that, we'll put that on the action sheet. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, whilst on page 10 in legal discharges, will be
Take anyone down for that or?
Page 10, wastewater services and legal discharges that we've come across.
Mr. Chair, you can ask Alex when he comes through.
Okay. That's all good. On page 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Page 15. Later on, we're talking about the percentages and things. Dave, we were in all there when you passed on that idea you'd come across with paramedics. Might bring that up later on for the people in that area. I thought it was a good idea. I was wondering what solar farm, I've got an update just where that's sitting.
Commissioners have asked for an updated fire report.
Yeah, so is that where it's still sitting?
Still with the commissioners.
Yep, it's all good.
Fire report written by the
Page 16.
Through the chair, just very quickly, the paragraph 4.1 on the action sheets. We've got those 3 items on there. I wonder if we've got any progress for item 1, any update for item 2, and a time frame for item 3. Progress on item 1.
Mr. Chair, item 1 is, there's a couple of things going on here. One is, and this was prompted by the Cheviot Community Committee in their last meeting, was about putting a notice out in the local newsletters to people to tell them that we've got a change of approach, because it's often been in the past where the council has just gone along and dealt with it. So we're explaining that. But yes, we are engaging with people, and yes, people are dealing with that vegetation. So that's a good thing. Number 2, I mean that work's not going to be done by the roading team for a long time. It's whether or not the action sits on this action sheet or it sits with the Cheviot Community Committee. And it's probably best on there, I would have thought, just for them to keep a watching brief on it. And the last one,
Just want a time frame. Do you have a time frame?
I'd have to have a chat with Charlie about that.
The last 2 items out on our current action sheet. Should be for
I'm wondering, what's the point of shifting the action from on the Fergus Street repair, because the community committee hasn't got the power to do the street. So what's the point of? They haven't got a delegation and they haven't got the funding, and it's a district road. So why are you sending it back to the community? Just a question.
Mr. Chair, so the theory behind it being that it keeps on the radar somewhere, but there's no forward works programme in time in terms of rebuilding, reconstructing that road. So there's nothing on the horizon that says that work's going to be undertaken. So if the community committee that do have delegation over that footpath want to do something, then they can. But the road's not going to be realigned, rebuilt, reconstructed, just so that the footpath can be remediated. So it's whether or not the local community committee want to continue with that, maintaining that visibility at that point.
Okay, page 16. And I'll go 16 to 19. 16, 17, 18, which is move up to now. So, okay, we'll move up in a second to the correct, Steve. Sorry, did I hit you, Dave, or were you with me? Sorry. Chris, you're here, second.
Please get it, Steve, Chris. Not Chris, Steve.
Okay, so we now go to page 19 to the starting operations report. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as the Chair mentioned at the beginning, this is the last previous report, so my summary does talk primarily specifically about the work that they're doing. And I know that for a number of years, we've been, you know, impressed by all of the capital work that goes on. Everywhere we seem to look around the district, there's massive reservoirs everywhere, which are a great example of all of the work that we've done to meet all of the compliance criteria that's been set ahead of us. But running or coexisting with all of that work is just the sheer dogged day-to-day activity that people do and undertake to make sure that we are compliant. So the system that we build isn't compliant all on its own. It actually takes the human element to make it so. And just by way of example, a number of years ago, we didn't have half the intelligence that was coming back to council. We've now got so much remote monitoring going on and data that's being pulled back. Somebody's got to sit through and trawl through that and put it into some semblance of order. Now that's what the team that's been growing over the last 10 years they've been growing specifically to be able to handle all of this. So between Alex, Kirsty, Sam and Roy and all these other people that are making sure that if a system has a blinky light on it, some way, shape or form, that gets visibility nowadays on someone's phone. And we've got millions of those pieces of data sets coming back. Someone's reorganised all of that, worked out what's more important than something else, so that on any given evening, when your phone goes, you know it's actually important. When I first turned up, the guys were getting, if they were on call, and the system was faulting, then they would receive probably 80 to 100 texts. So that drives the behaviour of just turning your phone on, which you're not interested. So in amongst all of those, were some important stuff. And I think I provided a report in about 2017 to council showing that we had consistently something like 72 E. coli transgressions per year for the last 10 years. And it was just general apathy. It was just something that happened, not only here, but right across the country. Havelock North happened, gave us a kick in the backside, gave everybody else a kick, but we've elevated to the position now where we don't have to worry about those things since 2018. E. coli transgression free since 2018. I'm probably not going to go to place. So I can remember distinctly looking forward to a long weekend, and I think it was myself and Hamish and a couple of other people hanging around here on a Friday afternoon, ready to go, and then we did have an E. coli transgression in Hanborough. So because all the visitors head there, there's no way of having meaningful communications and warning everybody about boiling the water. So we rallied those that we could find, got 4 or 5 cars together, and we drove up to Hanborough and started door knocking. The sector post stood up, so I think Dean was the EMO at the time, managed to rally that crew. So there was probably a team of about 50 of us going around knocking on every single door, all the holiday homes, telling people. So I can remember sitting in, probably the only time Hamish ever shut your beer actually, sitting in the mob tents afterwards. And we looked at each other and said, this can't go on, we've got to do something different. So, and that was really the sort of genesis of the journey about all of this maintenance. So it's not just about building the gear, buying the gear and building the gear, it's about getting the right people, the culture and the behaviour. So this is my opportune time just to sing out in a public forum, just to say how great that whole team would be to get us to the point of the rest. Yeah, and largely it's down to the individual people, not the car, not the systems.
The downside of that is, of course, we've never had another call out, so Dan's never shouted me back.
Just a few words. This is a big day for our council. a big transition, and I know, Dan, you've just spoken about the exceptional staff that we have that help deliver, but I guess I might also just want to recognise your leadership in that. You know, I know how influential you were to bring some of that expertise in to enable us and coach us, I guess, as elected members that have been on this 10-year journey to ensure that our district has been fully compliant. So I recognise the big change, the shift in culture and the shift in desirable outcomes that you have led your team, and those that fall out into the field workers. I think that's been quite exceptional. And it's not forgotten amongst us sitting around the table how big it is and how much we are in a period of change, and I'm forever hopeful that we retain all those magnificent people to continue to deliver the service with a different, maybe a different hat, but actually with the same desirable outcome to meet the needs of the district that we all serve collectively. So thank you to everybody, but thank you for the leadership that you've shown and created that. I think it's great. Yeah, so I think that's enough said, but I think the team deserve the acknowledgement, and I think our community, our district is grateful because of that, and I don't envisage that changing in the near future. Thank you.
Touch on the change further too.
But yeah, just by to give you some degree of comfort. Bobby and I had a conversation last night, so just to let you know that yes, the transition is happening. So 40 team members are moving across to the water company, but for all intents and purposes, they're still sitting in the same seats. They're still doing the same thing. They're still wearing the same T-shirt. They're still drinking out the same mug and in the calf with us all. So apart from Dan Blair leaving, which you all know about, not for the reasons of moving to a water company for his own future, everybody's still here and everybody's still dedicated to doing the same job that they have been.
Thank you.
Did you want to go through the?
No, I'll just hand over to Kerry, Mr. Chairman.
Next to the building on page 20. Hey everyone, building report on page 20. We're in our final preparations to move to Dalescape, which is our new lodgement portal and processing system and inspection system. So we hope to go live this week. So we've got people from Dalescape in the offices as we speak from Australia helping us out for the last final bits and pieces. So that should be going well. There's the training teams all been trained on how to use the system, and we've had one public session for designers on how to use the new portal, which we had 8 designers in that, so that was quite good. So yeah, we're hoping that the new portal will be more simpler to use, and it appears to be the case, so we don't expect to have any issues there. So yeah, should be good for anyone to apply. As far as the consents, still clocking in, nothing spectacular, but just pretty normal numbers at this stage. And we've got 100% of our consents on time, and 100% of our co-compliance certificates on time, which is under 20 days, but we're getting most of them under that. Yeah, so the graphs there are showing there that pretty average sort of numbers, nothing spectacular either way. Over on page 21, we've got our cadet on our getting to the last stage of her cadet scheme with qualification. So she's been doing a diploma in building surveying, and she's coming to the end of it this year. So that's she's going well at this stage. That's really good. And there's an interesting project here in the photos with the Mount Cass wind farm starting, which is quite a major project in the district, which is well underway. That's the building report. If anyone has any questions, otherwise I'll move to property.
For an impatient person that has done an independent audit of the building department over a few different consents, and navigating simply, and now I see it's going to something else, which I've just got sorted. I just wanted to say I've had a very positive experience with the building team, and they've done a magnificent job on some difficult consents and a difficult impatient person to deal with.
Who was that?
Women on easy.
Do something.
Boundaries, but in the wrong place. Sheds that have had to be moved. Very positive experience.
I imagine it was memorable for both sides. Actually, I did note, Kerry, on the building consents and RFIs for the last 4 months, while the consents are trending up, the RFIs were trending down, which is.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
Yeah.
So the builders are catching on.
Hopefully.
Just a question on RFIs. I think most of us got a letter in the last week from the Minister of Housing, just about some of the issues with RFIs, and I think for most builders in the industry, it's the bane of our existence. I don't want to dwell too long on, but any thoughts on how this whole, other issues with what's coming from up above that's being pressed on you, or how can we actually improve this whole RFI system?
Through the chair, the RFIs are really due to plans being received that don't apply building code. So it's really trying to help the designers provide the information we need, and also the right correct information to at least reach the bottom of the code requirements. So yeah, what we try and do is we try and ring the clients to try and work through them as much as we can, rather than just sending out a big letter to try and keep things moving. But yeah, there's a limited what we can do to train designers to get the information right and compliant. But yeah, we try and facilitate answers as much as we can, because the person that writes the letter is probably the best person to know what the answers might be, so they try and suggest a few answers and help them along. That's kind of the aim. Yeah, I don't know whether that's answered the question or not, but
Through the chair, well, there seems to be a disparity between architects, engineers, and council expectations. And I don't know how we get more consistency between those. When the council's questioning engineers produce the statements that they don't have the right information, well, who's, there needs to be some level of what actually needs to be in that. The other one, from the Minister of Housing, there's a number of RFIs that seem totally irrelevant or nitpicky. And I mean, I can certainly back that up from my experience. I think the other side of it that grates a lot of people is, we'll get half a dozen RFIs, we'll answer those, thinking we've answered their RFIs, and then a week later we get another list of RFIs, and we answer those, then we get another list. And if we can get sort of more of a system where the whole plan's gone through to start with, and we can get sort of most of those RFIs at once, because the problem is, if you've got an RFI that takes a month to answer because we need a report or something written, we could get all the other RFIs out of the road in that time frame, as opposed to once that's been answered, then we get another lot that take another 3 weeks to answer, and that's what drags on the process. And I mean, I've got to a point, most of my clients now, I say it will take you longer to get your plans drawn up and a consent than it will take to actually get the thing built, because that's the reality of the process. Even though, I mean, we're saying that we're getting most of the consents done within the 20 days. I mean, that can quite easily and quite often drags out to 3 or 4 months, which is what we seem to be seeing across the board. So I don't know if there's an answer to it.
Thanks, Chris. It's good to get a contractor's view. Did you want to answer that before?
Just through the chair, we try and only send out one RFI, but then if the information comes back in from that and it's still wrong, we might have to send out a second one. Or if, say, we need a site plan and the site plan comes in and it raises more questions, that's the only time we have to send out an RFI. It's not we don't have a second tried it, you know, it's fully processed, all the RFIs go out in one letter. And then if the information that comes back in is not right, that's when a second one would have to go out. That's the only time it have to go out. But the other thing that you could be talking about is the PIM. The PIM does go out separately, and that might have planning breaches that you might have to resolve. But other than that, I'm very firm on it. We only send out one RFI that covers everything. And yeah, so I hate the multiple RFIs with new things. Yeah, if that's happening, that we're not happy with that.
Talk to you on that one.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
Through the chair, Kerry, you've mentioned that the quality of the design is coming through. Are a big portion of the reason as to the RFI requests. It leads to a question I want to ask in regards to our staff. How many of them are on the ORF team who are out ex-trade, or are they all diploma based?
Through the chair, we've got 3 tradespeople and about 3 come from diploma.
Okay, thank you. Which rolls me into my final question. If we have the issue with RFI, because I'm in construction as well, and it is a bane, and it's national, depending difference with each council. When a site visit's been happening, are our staff picking up the issue while they're on site? And then why would they miss the ongoings on the visual as opposed to having to refer back to paperwork? Through the chair.
I'm not quite sure what the question is, but our inspectors.
I'll reword it. Sorry, I'm trying to be. If a person comes to site as a diploma-based person, they're academic. I'm a tradesman, by the way, from origin. I came through the trade. So they come on site and I have them work for me in my own staff formats, and we have to teach them to open their eyes to look for issues that normally as a carpenter you see. The question I'm asking, do you feel that that's part of the portion that we're having failures in RFIs because, I haven't finished, because failing the RFIs because they're relying on paperwork as opposed to a visual inspection?
Through the chair, the RFIs are related to a building consent processing, and our building inspectors are both tradesmen. One of our building inspectors has been building for 50 odd years, the other one has been building for 20 years. So yeah, both of our building inspectors are trades-based people. Then the consents are mainly diploma-based people, because there's a lot of paperwork and it often doesn't suit trades-based type people. And that's where the RFIs come out of. The building inspectors on site don't send out RFIs. They either pass or fail inspections. There's no RFIs with them. So they're only confirming the plans built to plans.
Through the chair. So what you're telling me is the inspectors are only inspecting what's visually on the sheet that they've been given, and they're sticking to that to the inspection, and then when they leave the site, if something else pops up, that'll go through the paperwork side.
Through the chair, no, the building inspector is looking at building code compliance on the site, and they go through a prompt sheet so they don't forget things. So that they have their eyes open and not just going through a check sheet and just checking the boxes. If there's something random that's not right, they'll be checking that as well. Okay. So yeah, it's a minimum code check and a consent plan check. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions on building or property?
Property, yeah, we've replaced a number of heat pumps, and we've on page 21, and our social housing inspections are now complete, and we just had one unit that needed a bit of a tidy up, so we're working through that. But in general, they're in pretty good order. On page 22, we've had seen property officer depart, and we're looking to replace him or her shortly. We've got the roof repairs at the Henry Springs Memorial Hall underway. Leaks have been addressed and repairs been done and undercoat's been done, and with the final coat to be done in the spring when it warms up a bit. And yeah, we're refurbishing one social housing in Cheviot, so we'll run down there at the moment while we get that up to a level standard after a long-term tenant vacated. And yeah, pretty much, yeah, page 23 has all the activities that the property team has been up to. I'll take that as being read unless there's questions. And the photos at the bottom there show a little work happening there with
with the repair of one of the sheds at the pool that was blowing to pieces and now repaired, put back together. And the clearing out of some of the social housing unit does take time when it's abandoned stuff. So yeah, it takes a bit of time from our property team. And I'll be photo of some big heat pumps.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question on page 23 in regard to leasing license to occupy. The fins to remaining, is that the Greta Valley lease or license or whatever it is, and does it also include the Hiranui rural, which is on my area? Are they the two that are currently needing signing off and those deals completed?
Through the chair, those are two we're currently going through, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I'm
Sorry.
sorry, so they're in the process.
They're in the
and
process.
actually signed off on them, is that correct?
They're in the process, so I'm not sure how far away they are from being signed off. Dan might have a little one of things, do you?
I don't, Madam Mayor, at the moment, the property is just working through the final detail to make sure that it's all good, and there's no, like, deviation from the previous ones.
Yeah.
And if not, then, yeah, they're becoming sign off.
Yeah,
So-
okay. I think the Greta Valley one was relatively simple, making a bit of move. At the Hiranui rural one, I think they wanted to get on and do some impact strength into that building, and they made it. So the brigade members have got, you know, safe place to work and showers and whatever, so they're pretty keen to get on to do that work, so it'd be good if that was managed as best we can.
Thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair, Kerry, page 22, damage and vandalism, bottom of the key sheet box there. Is there a way that we can secure that building just to stop this happening? Because it's ongoing, and obviously the security measures we've got there aren't adequate. So unless we retender and get that stuff changed, is there something we could do, like board the place up or something cost to remove this ongoing bleach costs?
Yeah, there's always things we can do. It's just how much we want to spend on something that we aren't quite sure what we're going to do with. Hamish, may want to say something here? I don't know, but yeah, at the moment we're just building up windows when they're broken. That's the extent of the security, really. And monitoring.
Not quite, Kerry. So on the south side, it's board up windows that are broken. But these are all windows on the Queen Mary Heritage Reserve. These are heritage buildings. At the moment, glass gets replaced. So those three buildings that are mentioned there are all heritage buildings on the Heritage Reserve and not on the Queen Mary South side. So this damage is occurring on the heritage side, and that's where the cost is being incurred.
Through the chair then to the CE, if you could, question, what are we doing in regards to security there? Because obviously what's there is not adequate. We need to revisit that because this is starting to bleed money out of us.
Yeah, there's always been a cost to maintaining those buildings, and the best solution is to find a use for the buildings, of course, because then people are less likely to smash the windows of them. But that's proven difficult. It's a part of the council ownership. The Soldiers Block is now up and operational, but it's not fully full-time occupied. It's more occupied than what it was. The building's got alarm systems. There is security cameras on site. There are security patrols that happen there. But in full-time security on site, there are always gaps, and the site is not security fenced. There's infiltration all over the place for people to come and go. So it would be it's a large site. We could fully fence it and allow public access at the same time. Yes, we do suffer some damage and vandalism, and there is a cost to that. But that's the price of owning heritage buildings.
Okay, thank you.
Through the chair, walking through the heritage site quite often, I do look at the nurses building and do think, what have we got to do to just get it up to a backpackers? So someone might take it as a backpackers without having to change anything inside. I know it's probably fire sprinklers or what, because people did live in it 20 years ago or whatever. So a retro backpackers, I don't know, I'm trying to think, you know, you have people there, but was it all just too hard because it's on the reserve? Can we give it back to the government and say, well, that was a bad idea?
It's in the building is earthquake prone, it's unreinforced masonry first floor with a wooden second floor on it. So it does require significant earthquake strengthening to get it up to standard. I mean, it's a big building with a lot of rooms in it, and they're very small, the rooms that the nurses had in there. Whether you'd have enough backpackers to make it viable, I don't know. But there's a significant cost to upgrade that building. It will need not only earthquake strengthening, it will need fire, it will need probably rewiring, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It was built in 1928, that building was it 29, somewhere around there. It's you know, it's an old building and hasn't had any significant work since 2010 or 11.
Is there any changes in the earthquake standards or whatever, that may help the cause or not?
There has been, but that sort of building unreinforced masonry would still be on the list, but a lot of the buildings have been cut off the list now, and something like that would definitely be still on.
Especially if they had a higher occupancy rate, as James, it's a good suggestion, but if that occupancy rate would actually trigger the threshold, is that correct? Yeah.
So it's through the chair again, it's a hard question to be made, there's no point in sitting there, so unless someone says they're gonna do something, then we're on the demolition program. Well, who's gonna fix it? It can be on any heritage. So if someone else can front up and do it, whether it's central government or whatever. It's just, the whole thing is another blight for the next 30 years if no one's gonna do anything about it, because we keep saying we can't do anything about it. Why have it?
So I just note that in 2010, when council accepted that building, Crown provided $1 million to earthquake strengthening.
It's something might be relevant in our discussion on the strategy later this afternoon. Pauline.
Yeah, thanks through the chair. Just on the topic of the nurses block, I understand the substantial amount of work that would need to be done to bring it up to standard. Have we ever had a costing done as to what that would cost? Rather than just.
But can't answer that off the top of my head. I think there were some rough numbers done. Kerry, I don't know whether you can.
No,
I don't think we had a detailed one done.
Is there a massive cost in having some numbers done so that we understand what the cost is moving forward to bring it up to standard, that might help in decision making or pathways?
And Chris, and then Chris.
Sorry, just quickly, isn't this part of what Brenton, Tom and that committee are working through? Because I mean, I agree with.
Exactly that part. Discussion, but not as,
That's
what we would.
Yeah, so through the chair, like, is that part of a scope of that committee? And it's if not, how do we actually look at this? Because I agree with Dave, if nothing's going to be done with it for the next 30 years, well, what are we doing holding on to the thing, or we need some sort of plan with it?
Question, this is on reserve, it was on independently reserved. Sorry.
Through the chair, on a different subject, unformed legal roads. I'm wondering how we're going with the ones up the other way. Out on Leamington, Kaiwara.
don't have to follow up the team on that one. Sorry, Leamington and Aurora.
Yeah, Anderson's.
Anderson's, yeah.
I have a couple quick ones, in the chart page 23, planned maintenance projects, several target for the financial year, but we're talking 26, 27.
Yeah, no, we're hoping to have those done by the end of this month.
Yeah, about 300.
Oh, no, that's the total plan in the whole system, but we only have the 110 to do this financial year. But there's 344 that are still planned in the future.
Right, and the other thing was around the previous project, about streamlining and AI and everything else. With all our leases, are we, I think we did, like the Criminal Society and that sort of thing. Have we got a fairly standard template for some things, or is each one a piece of work on its own?
Funny you should say this, because my boss is encouraging us to use a bit more streamlined on our leases. And yeah, we are starting to put them together with a template. We've had a template for years, but we're starting to use a bit of AI to get the first draft put in.
Yeah.
And it's not going to still manually checked, but it's definitely speeding this up. Definitely, yeah. But there's a lot more we could do. Yeah.
Just to add to that, I think Kerry and the team have done quite a power of work in terms of trying to understand much more about our leases and licenses than we've ever had before. So we've now got categories of leases. So from simple, which might be a typical grazing lease, which can be pretty much churned out, you know, like this, all the way up to some of our more complex ones, which might be the gym in the soldiers block or something like that. So bespoke, specific on that game. They would be considered complex, and sometimes we need legal advice on those, and sometimes we don't. But there is now quite a robust mechanism in place that the team has developed.
We have any further questions? You I should put it out, but any further questions of Kerry? Thank you very much for helpful. I note that I've got 2 texts down my list of 12 and 10 to go. So just bear that in mind. Page 24 now for road and such.
Yep, Mitchell
Welcome,
Ward.
mate.
Hey, how's it going? I'm contract engineer for the roading team, stepping in for Charlie today. Just starting at our summary here, our maintenance spending program has been ongoing. We've done about 10,000 cube, mostly on Virginia Road, looking at Mount Noble, Leslie Hills, Riverview, Direct Juries, Leeches and Mound Road also. And we also had our final dig outs done for the year on Leader Road and Rothman Road North. Luckily, we were able to finish those off out of season due to the nice weather we've been having. And our planning for the upcoming bid for the AMP that's ongoing, that is due the 28th of August. So we're just working through that at the moment. Running through to our key metrics here. We had 44 CSRs received and closed off 46. The trend for them was mostly unsealed roads due to the dry weather we've been having and the inability to have moisture in those. Financial data, we've had a $1.4 million spend, with 1.26 of that being through the course claim. 141 edge markers, those are mainly up Inland Road, up in the windy spots there. 187 potholes, 43 metres of edge break repaired. 10,700 metre cubed of metal placed, 110 k's of unsealed roads graded, and we just had 2 forward signs vandalised there.
Just on the market peaks, I noticed there's been a new water line put in on Sinclair Road, and all the market peaks have been smashed.
Oh, yeah.
And then down it's not the road, and it's sort of, and then on the old main road there's been a new fibre optic cable, and all the market peaks have. Do you replace them, or what happens to it?
That's good to know. Like, so with that waterline project, that will be replaced.
Sorry?
The waterline project one up Sinclair Road, that they will be replaced as part of that project.
They haven't yet.
The
water line's been 2 months, 2.5 months, is it, since down here and the Magpies are all still broken and gone, yeah.
I'll note that down and I'll get on. to
Yeah,
that
it's just
later.
to remember, because, you know, if we're starting a new water company, and, you know, who pays for all the damage?
Actually, that raises the question of like fibre optic people coming through, which is something to do with us. Who picks up the tab for following after them?
Through the chair, that should be done under the corridor access request through us allowing them to work on our network essentially. They have certain things they have to replace, repair, and standards they have to leave it in. So that should be picked up through that corridor access request.
Thanks, yeah.
Thanks for that. Dan will know what I'm gonna ask, but.
So is Mitch.
I don't wonder if that's why Charlie was avoiding us this morning. Leach's Road in the Mound, Cord in their wisdom, and I'm not sure what their philosophy was behind it, of put a whole lot of clay on these roads, which will have a number of complaints about, even to the point that a local farmer rang me up the other day and said they actually had a stock truck stuck on the road and they had to drag it down the road with a tractor because the road was that bad. And that's on Leach's Road, which was not a bad road beforehand. Dan's assured me that Cord will fix it at their cost. My concern is who's going to agree what is actually an acceptable fix, because if all that clay needs to be removed, then that's going to be a considerable cost. And to make sure that as a council we're not having ongoing costs from this. Yeah, and actually what was their methodology or whatever behind trying to do this, because it does seem quite absurd, really.
Through the chair. Yeah, so the first part of that, the material they laid, that was a material they decided, or we agreed to have a trial on. And it obviously didn't end up well. The rain soon after did not help. If it was compacted a bit more, it would have worked significantly better. But due to the white rain that came pretty much immediately after it was laid, it was still loose and soaked up all the water there and turned to, as you have seen and described, a bit of a slushy mess. With the cost there, I guess that comes as part of my job as the contract engineer for the council. We basically ensure that that is on council's costs and agreements happen there. And we make sure everything gets rectified as it should be, and the roads should be in the standard that are agreed upon.
Just to add on to that, as I understand it, what they're now going to do is import clean material to bed it into that, so to bind all that clay up or to supersede the clay, if you give a meaning. So the road, in actual fact, will probably be built up. There could be better drainage on the road in the long term, and it will be a better outcome. But it's just going to take some time, which is an error. A gamble was taken, and it hasn't paid off.
Through the chair, they have spread metal now on Friday. They've replaced and put new metal on there, as far as I'm aware.
As far as I'm aware, this stock truck got stuck over the weekend.
Okay, yeah, that's.
I've talked to a couple of people involved in roading, and as I say, I do understand the idea of using clay to bind metal. Most people I've talked to said you need about 10 to 20%. If they put 100 mil clay on, that means you need possibly at least 500 mil, a half a metre of shingle to blend in with it. Seems absurd trying to put that amount on and then get it blended in. I guess, you know, you say this is going to be fixed, but as a council, what is the methodology to fix it, and what has been agreed with the contractor as a fix? That's my concern.
No, I wanted to prompt your question. I thought your hand was up.
Yeah, no, it is, yeah, that's right, through the chair. I'll take you off into another direction, Lake Sumner Road. I noticed there we've got some culvert renewals on noted down as tasks and activities that are due. I was recently talking to the management of some of the farms at the stations up there, saying that certain portions of the road aren't looking so great. Have we got something that I can go back to and let them know we've got in our time frame to look at the road again? Because of we know it's an abused road by a lot of people from outside the district, and it is a cost burden that we have to carry. But it's also something that two big stations, one particularly has been on to me a bit about, as being in my constituency.
Through the chair. So last year we had a significant investment in Lakeside Road, and we spent a fair chunk of change putting metal down on there, and also replacing culverts. This year we've gone and replaced 3 culverts now.
Yes.
I'm not too sure the sections that you're referring to. Are they the sealed sections or
the unsealed sections? Yeah. And it's further in, as you know, the beginning section is dangerous at best, you know, the blind corner after blind corner, and during the weekends a bit of a gamble going through there. I think most of the road rutting and the issues they're finding are in that part, and also towards the junction for the where the south hits the main river, South Branch, and around there as well. Yeah, it was SKED that made the note, and it made several notes to me, by the way.
Okay, no, that's right. We've got this could be due to our significantly dry winter that we are having, exacerbated by that. We would usually change our grading frequencies if we need to, just increase them slightly. I have to get back to you about the grading frequencies and where we're at. If we keep up this dry weather, we might have to increase those to keep the road in better condition.
Yeah, I think it's something to consider. Thank you. I'd like to say SKED and station have both been in contact. Thank you.
Just a couple of questions I had from a couple of people on Remington Road after the rally. They said the grader only graded about 1 kilometre of the road, and the rest of the road was just left, and they were trying to get the reasoning for that. And the other thing was some of the sections where the roads have got really bad, we put bigger material in, but we've never gone back and then topped it up with smaller stuff. So every time they grade the road, all those big goalies come to the top again. And it's just like the day it's been put on. There's been no sort of come back and finish the job. It's all been pushed in, but of course the grader has only got that material every time it grades it, but just brings it up again. And the road just is all like big stones, still with it. And, it's like we need to go and finish the job.
Thanks, Vince.
Is there a reason for the grading?
Yeah, sorry, through the chair. I'll follow up on that grading. All the valley roads, as you've probably been aware, are meant to be graded.
Leamington Road.
Yeah, so that was weird that has only been graded 1 kilometre. I'll follow up on that and I'll figure out what's happened there.
For some rhyme or reason, it was just graded a bit of the straight, and then the rest of the road was left.
Okay. Yeah.
No, it could be a good reason.
I'll give an answer for you there.
Thanks for that.
Just for my benefit, and anyone else that hasn't quite got it yet, the minor events, the first one, could you just explain the mechanics there? Because I'm still
testing my powers of my memory, Mr. Chair. So this is about the enhanced FAR. So what we have, we know that so NZTA have an enhanced financial assistance rate, but you've got to reach a certain threshold of money expenditure before you can trigger the enhanced FAR rate. And we recognise that we need some allowance in or contingency money in the roading budget to help small scale weather events that don't get anywhere near the expenditure to trigger the FAR. So that's what the 100,000 is about. It's a subsidised pot of money that the team can use if we have adverse weather. We can do some fixes. But to trigger the EFAR, it's one of two things. It's either 10% of our overall subsidised money spent. So in our case, if we've got a budget of 15 million, we need to spend in any given 12-month period, $1.5 million fixing things up before we trigger the EFAR. And then the EFAR only comes in above anything we spend above 1.5 million. So it's got to be a significant year, which we have had in the past. But it's got to be a real doozy of a year for us to secure that. So the government were talking about changing that to 20%, but based on all the feedback they received from all of the RCAs that they've now brought that back to, so it hasn't changed. It's quite complicated, but it's a very high bar for us to, yeah. I'll get it here.
Going through to our activities, our seal pavement maintenance, obviously the ones that are significantly over, we had the additional funding there, just as a reminder, with our pavement, our seal pavement maintenance and some unsealed and drainage money there. So that's why they're looking significantly high, but everything's tracking along pretty good. And yeah, our claims are working their way towards the end of the financial year, so got one more claim through there and we'll be looking pretty tidy for the end of the year. Our challenges and risks, like I described earlier, the dry weather this late in the seasons or this early in winter is very abnormal. So making it really hard to grade, no moisture in the roads to really help them out, and as we've seen, increased corrugations and potholes. So yeah, a bit of moisture would be quite nice, and not in quick big downpours like we had last week for one day than nothing. Some continuous rain would be nice. And our netting program, just sourcing material, we're working through that, but that's going along pretty well. And our AMP bid, as described earlier, 28th of August is our deadline, so we're working on the AMP there to get our next 3 years sorted, and our winter and associated activities. So we're starting to get into our gritting season, so we'll be placing grit on the roads to help with the ice and help a bit more traction there in our icy areas. Through our insights, yeah, as I said, the AMP, and we've also engaged ASC consultants to assist us with our programming and just to fact check us and ensure that we are programming as we should be. For all our renewals, all our reseals, rehabs. They've come and done an audit of our entire network, checked out all our roads and made us up a big spreadsheet and done a lot of work for us there. So we've got a big 10-year program. So we've got a very good foresight of how our network's looking, how urgent everything is. And so that allows us to program and write our AMP successfully. And
Okay.
And I'll just run through our upcoming events. Our vegetation side trims, we have just finished that on Cathedral Road in Gore Bay. That was a week of closures there, so that was a significant impact on quite a few people, but I feel like we've had quite a good outcome. Lot more width gained through that road. Our maintenance metling, the wheel digger work, that's just ongoing. That's all year round, so we're just working our way through that. And upcoming, our coal renewals, that's all our winter work really, a lot of coal renewals, and then Princess Street rehab and our intersection remarking, just ensuring we have everything through there. And the Clarence Valley, we're just finishing off the end of that, got a bit more metal to spread up there, just to top it off. And Clarence Valley should be looking pretty good. It's had a nice big birthday there. Finished Mary Ave, that courtesy crossing on here, and the Leslie Hills and Iris Road spot netling, just to tidy up a few bare spots through there. And just a couple of snapshots there of the work we have done, like Sumner Culvert, Cemetery Road, Chevron that just got damaged, and Rotham Road dig outs. Those are the ones that we just finished up in May. And Glendhu High Shouldering, just to help with our drainage to keep the water off the pavement.
Thank you, Richard.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, with regards to ASC consultants, how much variation in the LTMP that they've drafted for you, do you think, have they quoted us? Is it, you know, how much contingency or variation they've suggested would be relevant?
Through the chair, is he talking about through the cost of the consultants or
Well, we know.
difference in our program versus the one that I've produced?
Correct.
Not a whole heap, everything that we have planned for the next few years, they have just confirmed and said, this is the way. They have just finished, or just coming down next week or the week after, I'm pretty sure, to finish off the last of the network inspection. Right. And then they will give us the final program. We're still just in the draft phase.
Will we, through the chair, will we be able to get when you come back, we'll get if there's a variation or a perceived variation of costs in the blowout for the other end, we will be notified about that, we'll be given good indications.
Through the chair, so they're producing us a 10-year program. Through our AMP, we bid for funding in 3-year blocks.
Yes.
So essentially we have 3.5 more AMPs to go through before we get to the end of that assessment. Right. And we'll continuously do these assessments every 1 or 2 or 3 years as we need to see fit.
Okay. To get the funding.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, through chair, I'm not sure, I just see a Murray Avenue courtesy crossing. I did get approached about crossings at Haranui College. Who funds that? Is that out of community or district or? So my advice was it should go through Haranui community meeting, or is it district?
Mr. Chair, yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so local community groups pay for those race crossings.
Just a question to Mitch, really. So we've got the report from AEC consultants. Does that just give us a 10-year prediction of our roading network, excluding the bridging network, to kind of configure the analysis and, you know, how we might put in our bid for roading? How does that mesh with the assessment we get for our bridging?
Through the chair. Yeah, so what ACS provide us, they do a visual inspection of every road, assess the cracking, the rutting, the seal condition, the pavement condition, and basically come up with a big chart of predictions of how much, the extent of life that these roads have. Through the bridges, that I assume you're talking about, yeah. So the bridges, that's completely different, I guess. We look at those as separate programs, it's completed by separate contractors as well, so it doesn't generally mesh together as it's a package of work together.
Yeah, but I guess you know, from the funding mechanism and the projected plans going forward, one needs to work with the other.
Mr. Chair, yeah, so the numbers that you've seen recently from Charlie, this information will include it. So this isn't something new that you haven't been aware of. This is something that we continually do, and that helps us build our programs. So there's no surprise coming.
Yeah, thank you.
That's right. Site clearance, great to see you did the Cathedral Road and Gorbay Road. Miller Street intersection with Wood Road. The vegetation there is really dangerous. You cannot see to the left from transport going around, and it's council land and it's hawthorn, which I don't think any farmer would have planted. It's getting quite dangerous, you know. Out onto the road to know if there's anyone coming, and it's not really a good match. And I'm wondering how you're going with site doing those around the district. Examples like that.
Through the chair, yeah. So there's always an issue with us with vegetation intersections. When it is private property, we do let the property owner know, hey, we need to trim these hedges back or trees back. When it is councils, we do take action and we will usually remove those trees. But yeah, that's good to know about those ones on Water Street and Miller Street. I I can
Yeah.
work on those.
Yeah, a lot of it's just bushy stuff like wild plum and weeds really. They haven't been planted by the landowner, and it's just it's trying to draw the line with that. By the time you have an argument and realise it isn't the landowner's problem, they've grown again twice as big, and and it becomes a danger. You get around bridges, you can't see giveaway signs and all that because they're overgrown with cracked willows and everything. And it's sort of becoming a creeping thing in our district, and it's sort of stuff I don't think the council can back away from and blame other people for. It needs to. Some of them, they just got to do it themselves. And I'm just wondering how the question is, how are you going with that sort of things?
Yeah, that is a constant battle of ours, as you described. Yeah, we try to remove as much trees as we can. But yeah, with what you say, with the weeds and stuff, they do grow quite fast and can be quite hard to control. We do spray as much as we can as well. We had a couple of people out there just spraying weeds and getting rid of wilding pines and other wilding trees as well. Some of the stuff with the bridges, that falls into ECAN territory. So that becomes a bit more difficult for us just to remove the trees around the bridges that encroach on the roadway there. But we do work with ECAN to cost share and remove some of these trees here and there.
Yeah, no, because it's just, I don't want to see an accident, that's all. Yeah. While we're busy trying to work out anything.
Thanks, Vince. Great.
Through the chair, and just quickly, because I know that we are pressed on, I just want to go back to Mari's question, just get firm in my mind. With ASC consultants putting together, essentially formulating what we would do use to apply for funding, overlaying with the bridges, because my understanding is it's one amount that we get. If we choose to use it on bridges, we can't use it on roads. It's only one amount. So when they formulate this, we decide the bridges we're going to do within that period. I mean, because you touched on the fact that we want to start that program with doing the bridges, but that's at the expense of what we would be doing in roads.
Chair, no, we don't get the choice. We bid for money through our bid with NZTA, but the money that we bid for is broken down by categories. So we've got categories for seal paper maintenance, we've got for reseals, for rehabs, and bridging and structures. So each one of those, we would be looking at the WSP report for structures, total replacements, and bridge renewals. So we'd be looking at that report and then bidding for money through those, and for the ones that Mitch is talking about, through the pavement maintenance, through the reseals and rehabs, those codes, we'll be looking at the information for ASC.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Me again. The Sinclair Road, there's the tar seal on each end of the bridge on there. It wasn't even on the council didn't even know it was tar sealed. And it's pretty terrible, just about needs, it's been, I think we found out about it about 2 years ago, but it's pretty bad now. And, the tar seal's just smashing up and disappearing in big holes, and, I tried repairing it, but it's beyond that. Is it going to be on a it'll have to be a whole rehab now?
Through the chair, yeah. Depending on the extent of it, I assume it's a traction seal. Is it 50 metres either side of the bridge on the unsealed section there? Yeah, so that would just come under a reseal, a very extensive reseal with a significant amount of pavement repair. But yeah, we'll be able to work on that. I can note that down.
Thanks, Mitch. I here was one of the activity snapshots there that the chevron's been replaced. I wondered if that was the right way. It says the school to the right, where the chevrons are going, and the cemetery the other way. And I thought life's progression was really the other way, but never mind. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for standing in for Charlie today. It's an excellent job. Appreciate it. We're going to stop for a cup of tea now, a quick cup of tea, and be back here by 11. So, thank you. Matt, for our operations meeting. If we could now go to page 26 and looking at watershed management, because our Three Waters operations and assets, this is the last one we're going to get from Alex.
Cool, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'll speak to the operations and asset part of the dashboard. So starting off, our operation with 30 continuing to focus on routine maintenance is quite a part of the year for us in terms of reactive work. However, that has been stable because we've had such a dry spell across the district. The stable weather supported reliable operation of our treatment plants right across the district, which has been quite good. It's also enabled us to put a bit more emphasis on training. So we've continued our health and safety training with a strong focus on risk management and hazard identification. And that is a result of an incident that's occurred last month. Moving on to challenges, having a look at the graphs, there's nothing significantly unusual there. So everything is as we sort of expected with the stable part of the year. Around the challenging risks, we had some electrical faults that sort of all happened in the Amberley area. And those were around failure of power supplies at a couple of pump stations. So the pump stations continue to function. It's just getting the data back from the pump stations that was affected. And we are in talks with the supplier to find out why those power supplies have failed. We continue to see some unusual activity at our Amberley wastewater treatment plant. This time we've had a pivot that's operated outside of its designed parameters, and we suspect there's been some tampering with the irrigator by somebody on site. So we've installed some CCTV equipment to, I guess, catch the people or the person that is suspected of doing that. Balmoral continues to be a risk area for us. We had a meeting with Tamata ROI. As part of our compliance framework, we've committed to meeting regularly with them to, I guess, share our progress and look at where we're up. And with the transition, I guess, impending, we've met with Tamata ROI and we've essentially asked them some questions to clarify a bit of a discrepancy between their primary legislation and secondary regulations. There's a bit of a mismatch in some of the information they've provided. And we've also asked them to provide us some clarity around their enforcement strategy when it comes to the acceptable solutions, which we've discussed in the past. So what that will enable us to do is provide the board with the options and just to, I guess, remind the committee the options were around whether we go for the acceptable solutions. So that's where the devices are installed at each property or potentially a centralised treatment option. What we have got is, I guess, the costs and the design parameters for both of those options. Where we're not clear and we feel like we can't supply the entire picture is the risks associated with going with the point of entry treatment solution. So that's what we've asked Tamata ROI to help us clarify, mainly around the legal risk of essentially taking their compliance option. And they've gone away to do some of their work.
I'll just add something to that, Mr. Chair. So just something that one of those acceptable solutions that Alex talks about is that one of the options is the ability for, I guess, the water supplier to turn around and say the risk is on you as a homeowner, you accept some risks. So whilst we might continue to chlorinate as we do today, it's up to you whether or not you implement a point of entry device to protect the water coming in or not. So you take that liability on. And there is aspects of the legislation that allows you to do that. The bit that's not clear to me, and I guess this is what Alex is alluding to, is that council has some duties under the Health Act as well. So if the water company in this instance was to turn around and say, right, all the liabilities of you, Mr. Property Owner. So the property owner turns around and says, yeah, I accept those liabilities. But there's a different piece of legislation ensuring that councils and territorial authorities ensure that every property has potable water. So what we're not clear about, and that's part of what we're asking, is where does the liability stop and start? So the water company might be paying, we've got a signed letter to say that they're willing to accept liability, but there's other legislation that can come straight back to council to say, why did you allow this to happen? So we're just exploring some of that. So I just figured it's worthwhile just letting you know. It's not quite as cut and dry as one piece of legislation because there are other factors at work.
So, yeah, so through the chair, you have that same situation if I went to say in the Tauranga District Council and maybe pick a name, Pongaroa, it's not on a district scheme, but it's got a farm that's supplying 10 houses with its own water scheme or whatever, whether it's tank water or whatever, you'd have that same conflict. Tauranga Council would have that same conflict if you've got to have portable water versus a scheme. And so that's the same scenario, isn't it? So why we're getting ourselves hung up on something that's happening all over New Zealand? Because I would probably say that 80 to 90% of farm water delivered to domestic water in New Zealand is supplied by not a scheme water, supplied from tank water, wells or whatever. So what liabilities the council got on those 80% of rural water? I mean,
I don't think anybody's getting hung up on it. All I'm just is flagging a risk is that if the water company and the Balmoral scheme users make a decision, it may still have an impact back on council. And I think it's already widely accepted the risks associated to a homeowner with their own bore. If that becomes contaminated and that person doesn't do anything about it, then there are probably some duties under the Health Act that councils will have to get involved in. So I'm just flagging it to say that I don't think it's crystal clear to us that if the water company and the Balmoral scheme say we're going to pass the liability to the property owner, but council has got a complete carve out. I don't think that that's the case, but that will only be tested under legal process.
Where does that legislation start and stop? Because if you take it, does it only mean council X owned water schemes, or does it mean like my house? Because I get not on a scheme, but I get use my own water. So if that was a problem, is council liable for that, or is it? So I'm just trying to find out exactly what the legislation is meaning.
Well, Mr. Chair, I think there's lots of different pieces of legislation, but I mean, there's the Building Act as well, that says that you've got to provide, got to ensure that when someone's building, that they've got a potable supply of water. So that's one thing that our team look at, and our environmental health team tick off on that. So I guess all I'm doing is just flagging that if a decision is made to say that the property owner, there are other things at play that we might need to be considerable. That's all.
Chris, through the chair, just a question, just a bit. So my understanding is that the potable water situation, if we're supplying the water through our system, we are liable. If it's done as you're talking about in your own bore, you're under due diligence to look after yourself, but legally under, I think pressured in court, we would find that the council would not be liable for if your bore was not up to spec unless it was proven it was contaminated exteriorly from the property that it is drawn from. I think that's how it's worded, give or take, in the small prints of the legislations. But we will get Tamata Aroa, is that how you say? Thank you. Not so good at that stuff. I do apologise if I insulted anybody. They're going to give us a back feed. Is that my understanding what we've been told?
I must check. No, that's not what they're going to give us guidance over the acceptable solutions. And Alex's point he made was that The Water Services Act and the regulations, there is some disparity, so they're looking for that, but all I'm flagging is that if they make a decision at some stage in the future, that may have some consequences for council.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just going back to the wastewater, the Emily, did when the pivot fault, it didn't affect any of the neighbours or what it could have?
It irrigated for a longer period of time and outside of the boundaries where the irrigator had stopped. Once we had a look at the data, it appears to somebody has done something to the irrigator to allow it to do that. Shouldn't be able to do that under normal conditions. And you may have noted that there's been on several occasions we've had somebody over the previous months go out and switch the irrigators off. So essentially turn the switch off when the irrigator was supposed to be operating. So we think that this is escalating now where they're starting to, I guess, tamper with our control equipment.
So can you lock your control? Should have security on that, so you have show public just can't turn things off and on.
Yeah, while we're on wastewater, I've been asked about it, why we can't do it. A lot of rural septic tanks are emptied by a service provider. Robson's or Bill's Liquor Waste or whatever, and they have to cart it to town, to Bromley, to empty the tanks. Why to save our rural ratepayers a lot of money, our ponds in Amberley or Cheviot, why can't we put them into there?
Yeah, sure.
And he's also talking about the Gresser. Is it the one up here? Who pays for supplementary to the chair? Who pays for the emptying of the stock one up at the God Squad place, or the waste station? And that has to go to town too. So why do we have to take everything to town? We're in other areas they don't have to. Why are we so special? I suppose it's a question I was asked.
Yeah, sure. Mr. Chair, so the council has, I guess, a trade waste bylaw and a trade waste policy, and tankered waste is trade waste. So we absolutely can take trade waste into our facilities. However, there's a clause in there that states that the trade waste must be of a suitable quality to ensure that our systems, our wastewater treatment plant can process that quality. Because our wastewater treatment plants around the district don't have the same processing capability, and we don't have the same, I guess, discharge consents as, for instance, Christchurch City Council does. We have a lot smaller capacity to treat some of the contaminants that we're likely to receive. So we can take that trade waste. It has to be sampled and it has to be submitted to council before it can be processed.
So, the chair, supplementary, are you suggesting that rural septic tanks waste is different to urban waste? Because I'm telling you, it's a substantial cost and effort to take not trade waste, take the crap to town. Which I can't see is anything different than urban. So it seems quite pragmatic as to what, I don't know, something we need to fix.
Chair, I vividly remember sitting through the very arduous conversations that this council had when we were implementing or building the current Three Waters bylaw with the trade waste appendix to it. And the reason why that was put in there, it was thoroughly kicked around. I remember the conversations, and it was about the influence, because of the scale of our ponds compared to that Christchurch, the influence of one contaminated load, the damage it could do to our ponds, meant that we just couldn't take that risk without the waste being fully sampled, fully tested to make sure that it wasn't going to damage the ponds. That's the purpose of being in there. We just couldn't tolerate it. Whereas Christchurch, with their vast ponds down at Bromley, they'll dilute any contaminants out pretty quickly.
Chair, I'll add to that as well. We don't have the right screening equipment at the front end. So if we had, for instance, a tanker come in with waste, which is significantly concentrated from, from your septic tank, but a lot of the sludge needs to be filtered through before it goes into the wastewater pond. So we don't have those facilities available at any of our wastewater treatment plants. So I guess the council, if we were to start accepting that waste, there's a significant amount of capital investment that will need to be done to make sure that that's done properly. Otherwise, the end result for us will be breaching the discharge consents.
The considerable cost of us taking it to town could pay for that infrastructure.
Yeah,
pretty quickly. You know, everyone that's rural around here that's paying for it to go to town knows how much it costs to go to town.
Maybe something that we could look at. Chair? Any questions on that?
About dump stations around, I've seen 500 litre containers being dumped into dump stations in Cheviot, dump station in Cheviot. What's the difference of that than the truck that sucks it out, and the guy, he knows what he's sucking out, he'll have more control on it than some Joe Bloggs coming along and just emptying out a big container.
Right. Chair, so activities like that is actually illegal dumping, and we've got quite significant penalties for something like that. So I'd encourage anyone around the community to report events like that to us. Those facilities, our facilities, are not designed to process trade waste like that, and the existing caravan dump stations are not designed to take that waste.
I reported it to you, you did nothing.
Thanks, Vince. Fiona.
Just for clarification, given that the management of all of this will be moving over to the Wisco, will they have their own bylaws, or they'll be bound by the current bylaws that council's got? I'm sure we've been told this, but I'm just looking for a refresher when it comes to what goes into the ponds, what goes into different places.
As it stands, the Three Waters bylaw is here, it's current, and until such time that it is taken out of existence, I'm guessing that the WASCO will adopt it in its current form.
And so if we were looking, so if people want something like that to change, given the Wisco will be running it, that might be something that comes up in their feedback, and they would be the people to be making the changes to take on some of those sorts of things.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think that's probably a clear question. She'll know where the legislation sits on that, and no doubt she'll be thinking about how we make sure that the water company is protected under the current bylaw.
But also, if these are changes to be made, it'll be made by them as opposed to us, because we're no longer, like, this is our wash up of our responsibility. Any decisions going forward will be with the Wisco.
I should say yes.
I was just looking for clarification.
Sorry.
So
just clear my throat.
I was of the understanding we make bylaws, not the Wisco. Or the council was instructed to make bylaws from central government, one of the two, not the Wisco. So it will land on and remain in this room up until a legislative change. Would that be correct?
Oh, Mr. Chair, I don't know what Services Act allowed, what instruments that the new water company will have in terms of enforcement. That's just something, like I say, that's probably a clear question. We need to come back and let you know.
Yeah, about bylaw of not enforcement. Enforcement is the subject or the result of the bylaw. Yeah, thank you. That would be appreciated.
So I suppose what I'm wanting to know is, what is the pathway? Take out trade waste and say household septic tanks waste. What is the pathway that we could get that changed so that could be going through our local ponds. And I understand we'd have to make it that they could do it.
Mr. Chair, and the high level process for that would be that you know, there's some capital investment made in terms of equipment at our wastewater facilities. There will be likely changes needed to the discharge consents. We would likely need to have more irrigation area in order to I guess spread out the concentrated waste that would likely result in terms of us accepting that waste. Yeah, I think those are I guess the high level processes and the change to the bylaw.
Oh, look, I agree with what Alex is saying, but I think the fundamental issue here is that the purpose of the septic tank is to concentrate your effluent. The water pipe takes away the water and it concentrates. So your septicity and that stuff is much higher. It's much more concentrated than what's being flushed down the toilets into our wastewater system. And if your wastewater pond is not big enough to water down the septicity of that waste, then you're going to turn your pond over, and everybody's in trouble. And so it would require a fairly detailed study to look at what that waste and volume coming in was, how it was programmed into the system, and how it was accepted and how it was pre-treated prior to the release of the pond. So it'd be a pretty significant capital spend probably to get that going. But somebody had to do the work and figure it all out.
Well, was it, sorry, Chair, was there, you said it was work actually done by Will, so there must have been technical papers then, so maybe that might be all I need, is the past technical papers to say it didn't work, because I know the volume of what's coming in is not going to be horrendous. It's going to be 2 tanks a day if that. So, you know, I can't see the concentration. It's, I don't mind to say I'm definitely not an engineer, but I do know about shit and ponds. So
I think the study note now, something we can have a look at, but I want to move on from the discussion on. If we can,
sorry, Chair, just through the Chair, sorry, the importance of it, as I know, it is an expensive cost to our rural ratepayers. So don't underestimate how much it costs and the frustration that it is to our service providers out there as to why we can't. And that's the other question I've asked. Other areas are doing it. So what happens in Clutha? What happens in Taurua? I don't know. They don't have, remember, they don't have Christchurch City Council systems down the road that we can say take it down to. What happens in what happens in all those other places? So well, I'm not a pioneer.
No, well made, Doug. Thanks for that. There's something we can look at. Alex.
All right, yep, I'm moving on. I'll head us back into water briefly. So that in terms of our operations, there were 8 water outages in May. 6 of those were planned, and they were largely around new connections and reticulation upgrades. There were 587 properties affected, and there were 70 water repairs completed derived from the customer service requests, 40 new connections. There were 12 reports of complete loss of water supply at the property. 6 of those were as a result of issues on site, and they were mostly related to pipes freezing. We had 1 detection of coliforms in our reticulation in our Muri scheme. There was no E. coli found and no transgressions, and follow-up testing revealed no further coliforms. Moving on to wastewater and stormwater, quite large routine maintenance work continued across the district. There was nothing significant to report. Around our assets, there was quite a bit of work done around CCTV of our borehole, of our boreholes. A whole bunch of assets were captured as part of normal work. by and large, that's essentially my report. And as mentioned by you, this is my final report to the committee. And I just want to thank everyone for their support. Yeah.
I've just got a question for council really is, where is the waste, where's stormwater, where is the new organisation boundary going to start and stop? Because, you know, does it do rural water, or does it, because we all pay a stormwater rate. So we're like, I was just looking at, like, there was work done in the JED at Cheviot, you know, you couldn't say all of it was stormwater, you know, urban storm, and what does the legislation say? Because I'm just trying to get in my head how we'll in future handle stormwater.
Mr. Chair, that's quite tricky. But for the lion's share, or for the main part, anything inside the urban boundary that's listed as a stormwater asset will certainly be picked up by the new water company. But there are handover points, as you're quite well aware of, between private into the public system, there's road into the stormwater system, and there's vice versa going the opposite way too. So some of those finer details, they're the special nuances that probably Alex and Charlie know about specifically around the district, and I guess at some stage in the future they'll be writing some kind of handover MOU about how that's going to work. But in terms of legislation, I don't know where that sits.
We're bound by a resource consent which cover the urban areas. Every urban area in the district is covered by a consent for stormwater. Now our stormwater assets are a mix of roading assets and actual true stormwater assets. So the roading assets remain as part of the roading contracts with curb channel, etc. But there are assets such as pipes, for example, that are designed specifically to convey stormwater away from private property. So those in our council assets, those types of assets which aren't directly associated with the road, transfer through to the company. And a number of our consents into the rural area which control our stormwater systems move to the company as well. So you'll see this come through in a transfer agreement which will be coming to you shortly for your approval.
Because I see a hole in Cheviot with the JED River catchment, we had a wee rating area, and it looks like from now on there'll be no work ever done again in that river.
It depends whether it's associated with the township stormwater discharge or not. If it's consented work that's required for the town stormwater discharge, then that passes through to Kaikoura Water Services.
But it doesn't take its amount of water it puts into the system is might be 5% of the water. You know, if you relate it, say to if the JED was the Waiau River, and we had it's sort of it's a place that's nothing's going to happen, because you'd be a long shot to say it was the township's water that caused the problems of the JED with crack willows growing and everything.
If that's the case, that's an ECAN issue, then it's a regional council issue. They're responsible for rivers.
Dan in the comment.
Yeah, there are many instances around the district where we do have involvement outside of probably our jurisdiction, so it's not part of our stormwater network, and it's probably, you could argue that we get into the ECAN world, but we do that on behalf of communities because we're trying to do the right thing. And so, I mean, Alex over the years he's been here, Brett over the years he's been here, has certainly been lending their support to local communities to help them do what it is they're trying to do. And you know, Alex and Brett specifically have been involved with the Jet River, as is Gary has with the Watershed Creek. So I don't know, we've still got those people around. They might not necessarily be wearing a council t-shirt, but they're still willing to give us the pearls of their wisdom to help us move forward to deliver whatever the community can provide us. So I don't expect that sort of process will change.
Yeah, but you've taken away the money, so nothing will happen. Because it used to be a small rating group, and we collected money, but you've stopped that. So you only do things with money. I haven't seen things just get done for the love of it.
They, Mr Chair, they wouldn't have been paid for through the district stormwater rating.
No, the Gem River rating group. Yeah. Would paid money to the council.
Yep.
And that stopped. Few years ago now.
Yeah.
It's just come up, the work, it's just coming up, stormwater rate.
Yeah, so that's the question the landowners are asking, who's gonna do it now? Because they started it, you go back and look at the history, why, I always go back and wonder why there are things. And I think we don't look at that these days much. And there was usually a reason why something's there. And the reason was, it was a piece of something that needed work all the time. And the landowners said yes, so they paid a rate. It was paid to the Hurricane Council, wasn't paid to ECAM. And it was helped with the town, people with the water. But now there's nothing.
Yes,
So no one will take responsibility.
Or a new unit treaty on the track.
I mean, it'll be just a hole that never gets done with. I don't want to see it in 20 years, all the work that's been done there just gone back to being a creek full of crap willows.
Appreciate that, Vince. Chris, you had a comment?
Yeah, through the chair, I'd like to dive back, question to the CD. Just so the room understands, and I do myself, when we talk about roading and there are certain elements of drainage that fall on us, the curb and channel, I'm assuming the sumps, and then after that, the pipeworks and subcivils will go over to the West Coast. Would that be my understanding what you were saying?
No. There's assets in the roading corridor which only serve the purpose of roading. And they remain roading, they're maintained now by roading, they'll continue to be maintained by roading. It's where there are sometimes assets in the road corridor that are associated with housing, for example, and those assets become the responsibility of the WISCO.
Oh, okay.
So there's a relatively clear division between roading and other assets, stormwater assets.
Okay, thank you. Look, Alex, any council in the country would be pretty happy to see charts that look like that. We haven't, 8 years, we haven't been hauled up for any discrepancies or anything legally. We've been in good stead. I think we're over nearly 10 years.
10 years, yeah.
10 years away from it, a decade, and it's probably been largely over the period of it may even be unprecedented activity and development the Three Waters brought on, the changes in the work and projects that have had to be done during that time. And I think now with the new WISCO, not necessarily Hurunui is lost, but it's going to be the whole WISCO, the whole area of Hurunui and Kaikoura's gain, and very pleased to hear that the team's been kept together largely. And I would say that what's serving a district now, who knows, might be serving a province a bit further down the track, but that's where it's all going. But I've got to thank you for I think you've been excellent to, notwithstanding the coaches and selectors, you've been absolutely excellent team captain of an excellent team. So very grateful of the work and the results that you've done and the results that you've achieved. So wish you very well in the next stage.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice time. So now if we can go to page 31 and ask Andrew to take us through the question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Bits that I'd like to highlight in the last report for this month. Got quite a bit of detail in here about the Ministry of Regulation reform around food and alcohol. I won't go on to too much detail to talk about it, because I think it's largely a survey with some pretty out there ideas, but they'll come back and present to Parliament in July, and then we'll know whether they're actually getting with it. But a couple of the things that stuck out that would have implications for us were some of the proposals around revenue. For example, there's a proposal for food registrations to no longer be required. You simply have to notify your council that you're starting a food business, which obviously has two problems for us. One is, how do we collect a registration fee so we can afford to do our food duties? And secondly, it's currently a sort of system with an entry and exit point where if you don't meet your obligations, you can have your registration cancelled and be exited from the system, and you no longer have to have registration. Then presumably there would be some other tools to do it, but on the face of it, that was a concern. Also, proposal to remove renewals for food registration, again largely gives us a problem around how we fund that regime ourselves. And also on the alcohol side of the shop, the suggestion to remove annual fees. Currently, if you have an alcohol licence, you renew 3 yearly, but you also pay an annual fee, and those fees are used to fund the regime. So none of it's decided yet, so I guess we'll look at it in detail when we have a bit more direction, but some of that stuff, yeah, the revenue concerns for us, and also the sort of integrity of those systems. I'll update you when there's more. And in terms of other insights from the team, so the inspector have been working with police to follow up an alcohol licensed premises where a patron left allegedly very intoxicated in their car and then had a serious car accident afterwards. So sort of thing that when those very intoxicated people who have left a licensed premises come to light, is that generally the police and the inspector will follow up to see if there's any, to see that the premises did all the things that they were required to do. So that interviews with staff and review of the CCTV footage from the night and that sort of thing. But that was a relatively serious one for us. And just while you wanted to flag that we had probably we've been visiting reasonably regularly for noise complaints, so there's been quite an escalation of the noise maker, whilst trespassing on their neighbour's property, made some threats to them that seemed pretty serious, that he seemed reasonably capable of carrying out. And the police have spoken to us about that, and we've sort of, for the current time, adopted a position where we won't respond to noise complaints at that property, partly for our officer safety and also out of concern for but neighbours' safety. Should we go and turn up and say that there's a noise complaint, and worry what the ramifications of that would be. But we've spoken at length with the neighbours and encouraged them to continue reporting so that we can always try and understand what the is. As a result of a report to the Hamner Springs Community Board on the Hamner River Reserve freedom camping area and some maintenance that might be needed on it, there was a media article, and the media article stirred up a little bit of feedback to us, and it was interesting in that it was both ends of the spectrum from the feedback. So there was a little bit of, we're absolutely fundamentally opposed to any council money being spent on that reserve for freedom campers, along the theory that they don't pay, so it shouldn't spend. And then we also had, we absolutely object to the idea that freedom campers are responsible for damaging that reserve, and urge you not to close it, because we can't stay in that reserve all the time when we visit Hamner Springs, and we simply won't come if we can't. Both ends. And then we also had a really interesting contact from the Motor Caravan Association, who made us aware that they have some funds that they've previously used to help councils do maintenance on camping areas, and so we're exploring with them what we might need to do to make use of the funds, and their interest being that they like to have nice places available for their members to use, and they don't like to see freedom camping being closed off to their members. So we will explore that with them and just see if it's an option for that reserve. with our environmental health hat on, we've done some work, reasonably high level work on an avian influenza response plan. That's largely been coordinated regionally, so we've had to go away and look at what we would be responsible for and how we think we'd manage that and feed it back into the regional plan. There are 2 consultants that have been appointed. I'm not sure if the MPI funded or regional council funded, but they're coordinating regionally, one around sort of response plans and one around the waste management side. So they produced some draft guidance that's due to be finalised by the end of the month, and then we sort of will know largely what we'd need to do to operationalise the waste and the things that we're responsible for under avian.
So there's something being driven from the outbreak in Australia?
This has been ongoing there's been some work going on for quite a long time, because this strain of avian influenza, as I understand it, is circulating basically everywhere except Australasia. So there's been some sort of awareness that it will eventually make its way here, and there's a fair bit of work going on the background, just so that once, if it does arrive, people know what we've done.
How are you managing your staff? Because I was just listening on the radio this morning, they're talking about it, and there's a risk, they're saying, if you find dead birds, because if you handle a lot, there is a low chance, but it can cross over to humans. And I'm just wondering, as far as health and safety risk for our council, if you guys have 1,000 dead birds out on the sewage ponds, how do you handle it, to keep your own staff safe?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, it's our staff would be quite across the board that are likely, in a large scale events, we could potentially have roading contractors responsible for picking up birds, our amenities staff, I guess it will be Wisco staff by then, but the wastewater ponds. And there is a bit of work in the plan to make sure that the PPE is being procured and distributed regionally, so we don't have to go and buy a load of that. We just have to say to our friends at the regional council, this is how much we need. They've already ordered it for. And then, once these plans are finalised, we'll do a bit of internal staff briefing of exactly that kind of thing, how to handle what PPE you need to wear, how to safely remove your PPE and bag it, and all of that kind of stuff is in the plan. We just need to get that information out to the staff that might be involved.
Question, Chris, through the chair. Have we budgeted the cost of loss on this? We've got a budget of the cost, that's the loss that we're going to have on having to cover this sort of thing.
Through Mr. Chair, no, we haven't done any budgeting on it. We've pulled the plan together reasonably quickly. We've largely relied on using our BAU staff to do what they can do until they're overwhelmed. And I think the potential risk that we identified is we've got 7 amenity staff and a lot of reserves, and if it's a situation where we've got lots of birds to clear up, and that will likely overwhelm that team. But we've spoken with Alan, the emergency management officer, about potential for community response teams to assist if we get to that point. So I think the biggest cost might actually end up being in the waste side of the shop, depending on what the final, what you have to do with a position is. It's likely to have to be special waste to landfill, which obviously is expensive. So we're just waiting on that instruction to be finalised, and then I think it's, again, we don't really have a good idea on what volumes we might end up looking at.
Because our wastewater ponds, a lot of wildlife, birds and that live on those. Sometimes I see the one in Cheviot could have 1,000 paradise ducks at once. So as far as our property parts, they'll be more the risk areas in our parks and stuff, because birds tend to.
Yes, very Mr. Chair. One of the things that we've looked at though is in terms of risk. The riskiest sites is where there are a lot of birds and a lot of people go. And the wastewater ponds at least have the advantage that not a lot of people go there. So it might not might not require the sort of scale of cleanup, but they're definitely identified as a high bird population places.
I'm sure we'll come through again, planning anyway. Chris?
Sorry, not wanting to hold things up, but just quickly, I just see that you've had a multi-agency meeting with water quality at the camp. We had a workshop with discussion on a while back, just wondered if there's any update or options for the summer.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, we met with the camp board, and it was received really well by them. They undertook to go and have a think about what if any options they have. So there's no concrete plans yet, but I think it was received really well in this sort of general consensus that we'll work towards something, and they will work towards something, and we'll assist if we can. Something like that.
I think you sort of change subject slightly through the chair. You talked earlier, Andrew, about the licenses and renewals and all of this sort of thing. From my understanding, we've had some challenges over recent weeks and months with getting renewals and advisal of renewals, etc., out to various businesses. Hurunui District Council have been really good over many years of actually giving businesses a good heads up with plenty of advance. Food stuff might come out 3 months before your renewal day, and so it gives businesses time to plan. It has been reported that there have been some significant challenges with that for this particular round. Is that due to the shift into Datascape? And if it is this something that we've ironed out, and are we going to continue to offer that renewal advice to businesses?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. The challenge has been mostly Datascape related. It's mostly resolved in that we have a much better view now of upcoming expiries than we had when I reported a while ago that we were struggling with it. It's still got a human component that requires someone to pick that all up and get the notifications out to people. So the intention is to do similar to what we did before, but probably more in the style of a notification, whereas earlier we sent a lot of material out, invoice and everything. So it's more likely to be an early notification for a person to act on. We know we've had some still small hiccups, but that's been a human thing, not a Datascape thing, because I think we've got those views sort of dialed in now that we need to have to say, here's your upcoming expiries. What we don't have, and we didn't have before, to be fair, is a button, a one button to go send them all the notification. What's also coming and looks really promising is the online portal and forms. So it might be much easier to get a notification and quickly jump into the online and have it done. Whereas at the moment, at least in alcohol and food, we're still paper based. So yes, the intention is still to give people a reminder, an early reminder, because it just makes it easier for everyone, both sides, to
remember the expiry date after 3 years.
Yeah, it's quite clear in the Act, and there's a bunch of guidance to say that's totally your responsibility to do your reminders. But like we've talked about before, it's just our nature is that we need a reminder. We do it with the car, don't we? If you wait for your letter to renew your car every time, I think it's the same with any of that stuff, particularly 3-year ones. Easily forgotten.
Thank you.
Oh, Pauline, sorry, I missed.
Yeah, thanks, just through the chair. And I'll preface this just by noting my involvement with the DLC. So with the proposed reforms to the Sale and Supply of Alcohol and the Food Act, can you outline for the council what sort of impact that might have on the decisions that were made at the April meeting in regards to recruitment, training of DLC and potentially the tenure of the current DLC?
Through you, Mr. Chair. The proposals around DLCs and decision making, like a lot of the other things, ranged. A really big range was put out in their options. One from centralised decision making, from like a big pool of DLC members that either travel or make their decisions centralised. There was a suggestion for regionalised decision making, which is possibly not the time to make that call. And there was even a proposal of delegating some of the low level, low risk decision making to inspectors. So the range was like, could go all the way up to decisions made in Wellington, or could be decisions made by an officer. We will have a better picture when the report is presented to Parliament. I think in the short term, if we had the question about whether we just proceed with our recruiting a licensing a DLC, and I think we probably should, because it could be a long time for this. We might just have to note if we're making any appointments that that this review is taking place, and that where the DLC sits and who they report to might change, or they might be abolished completely and replaced with something else. I think if we're just clear when we appoint, otherwise we might still be sitting here another year with no more clarity on where it's going. Yeah,
it's pretty concerning that, like you say, that that you know, from a centralised model to a you can do it kind of thing. When you've been, Murray will understand those of us that have been in the system. But yeah, I was just interested in how we're going to manage the immediate future while we're waiting to find out what this reform might look like. Thank you.
I think just through the chair, I think that's when you're on the
yes,
you know, the decision came to council to extend it to the end of this year, I think wasn't it? Yeah, so
September, I think.
Yeah, whatever. So yeah, so to trigger your action.
Yeah, and I think in that paper when I read the minutes, because I was on leave, I think that the timeline suggested that recruitment would happen in June, and you know, I can understand why that might not have happened given this happening in the background. But yeah, I guess I'm just, you know, thinking wide.
Yeah, I'll move on to waste now if there's anything else. And waste on page 33. The big ticket item for us has been the Amberley glass collection rollouts. We've been dishing out the bins since the start of last week, and at the end of week one, we've just had about 400 of them. So that's about a third of what we expect to eventually have out there. So reasonably good first week uptake. My gut feeling was that was our keen customers in the first week, and we've only seen a handful of them put out for collection today. So that's okay. The collection actually starts on the 7th of July. Just note in the CSRs received, it was a slightly higher number than normal. We had 8, and a good chunk of those was a new collection truck driver on his first day on his own, just a couple of streets in Hammer Springs, fortunately. So we did have a few calls about that, and the contractor went back up with the ute on the Tuesday morning and collected what we'd missed. It's a bit of a shame, but it's quite a cool story, because that truck driver started as the runner, as a real young guy running on the truck, and he's now driving it. So it's good, and it's been a first day of cup's probably okay.
Yeah.
A quick note about our closed landfill. We did a survey of our groundwater monitoring bores just to have it while we had the capability to go and have a look at them and see what condition they're in. Mostly okay. There's a bit of work to do around some of the casings at the top of them, just to make sure they've got good lids that can close, but that's reasonably minor stuff, and access to them. The ones that we have a problem with, the Waikari ones that are now, with the work that's been ongoing at Waikari, they're now accessible. But interestingly, they're not accessing groundwater, and they all appear to be damaged or broken at about 25 metres depth, so all at the same depth. So just we've asked the drilling people to give us some information about what the likely causes of that are, and they've suggested geological displacement or ground movement, loss or dropping of the previously established water table, or some sort of structural degradation. The interesting thing is that it's all at almost uniform depth. on them. So that's that site where we've been doing investigation about the rubbish dumping that's outside the old landfill footprints, and we're likely to have to re-consent for the waste that's not the original municipal waste, so getting the water boards operational will be required as part of doing all that as well. Just of interest, with Tirewise program's gone really well at Amberley, so we've signed up the Hanmer Springs transfer station to receive tyres under the Tirewise scheme as well. There are other outlets in Hanmer Springs like the garage that will receive them as part of that, so it's just another option. The collection truck drives past us to go out there, so it's a good good thing to do.
And was there when that came in, I sort of had in my head that this was a temporary thing, but there'd be the area site that we could drop things off, but it wasn't forever before the tyre outlets then took it over. Is that the case or not?
I think it's open to anywhere which might collect tyres. The ideal is you where you buy tyres from takes your old one under the Tirewise scheme. But there's loads of transfer stations in the scheme and collecting them just as another service.
So there's no time limit on that for people, the backlog of tyres lying around the place.
No, but there's provisions in place for where there's known stockpiles on land. They're meant to contact between Tirewise and the landowner directly is the direction, rather than feeding them in at 5 tyres at a time. Probably doesn't work for anyone.
To compliment Andrew's statement, presently they're chipping the tyres and selling them to Huntley, and they're powering the plant up there as part of their fuel source. And that's what I think Tirewise is one of the companies might be doing. But there is an avenue. So I've been exploring already to talk about something. Sorry to interrupt you, but there is an avenue.
Just one other thing I want to flag that's not written in the report because it's happened since then is that at Matariki weekends we are going to get on a Saturday closure of the Amberley transfer station for some essential work. So as a result of an incident that happened in Southland at another transfer station, our compactor supplier supplies that compactor, and they've gone around all of their compactors that have a similar arrangement to have a look. And made some recommendations that some changes are made. It's essentially about where a person stands when the bin is released from the compactor, because there was an incident where someone who wasn't familiar with operating it, from what I understand, went and did the pressing the buttons thing, and it's because they're under load, it's jumped and crushed them. So our contractor has a practice where that shouldn't occur, but it's a practice thing rather than a physical setup thing. So this work requires two consecutive days. So we found before the long weekend day is normally a quieter day for compared to other Saturdays at the transfer station. So that gives us Friday, the public holiday, and Saturday, and then there's a sort of backup day if they don't get all the work done without disrupting normal operation. We'll put some pictures in the next report that we have just to properly describe what we're talking about.
I know that they were handing out brochures down there. I presume that you've got that going out through all your comms again.
Yeah, going out through all the comms channels, and well, we're giving glass ones to people that give us a chance to give them a wee flyer saying we're closed on that day as well. So.
Probably sprinkling them around the community this week. Yeah. Did the gentleman down or lady down south survive? They were okay.
They were killed.
Oh God, sorry to hear that. That's terrible.
Yeah, nothing else that I want to highlight this time.
Thank you very much, Andrew, for that. That's another very important. Just before we go on to the next report, because we're up to, I think halfway.
been happening is pretty typically good. There's nothing outstanding there in any of those graphs. Down to the compliments, I just want to highlight a couple. The first one is the community team. So we actually, it's one line on here, but it was more than one person had come through. And we actually heard back from some of the funders as well as some of the participants and their families, how wonderful those April school holiday programs were for the youth. So just really wanted to highlight that they are being acknowledged out there and really appreciate it. And the other one was near the bottom there, the swim instructor. So that was a email we got in from a person who had been having adult lessons with one-on-one adult lessons. And that's a really big deal for adults to come back and to actually learn to swim. And they just wanted to say how grateful they were. They were actually going on a holiday overseas. They were going to be swimming in the ocean. They were quite terrified of that idea. And this was a chance for them to actually have some lessons, learn how to swim and feel confident along the way. And they did. And it was just great. So just those ones. On to our events and activities. May was Music Month, New Zealand Music Month. And we had our usuals coming along there with the Valken Rovers. They're always so popular. People literally come in to listen to the Valken Rovers. And then we also had in there Jeff Graham, and he came on with a couple of performances there. And there was also a display that was put out by John McKeskey of a whole lot of different instruments, which was a bit different for Music Month, just not actual music, but actually look at all these different musical instruments, and there was books that went alongside those next to. So that was a great one. Tea and Scrabble. So Tea and Scrabble is a call posted between the library staff and the community team as well. So Vanessa and the community team comes through. So Karen and Vanessa put these together. They started doing them last year and they were such a success that they've decided to do them again. So they literally go to, in this case, there was Cheviot, and then later it was to be Amberley, and they have tea and they have Scrabble, and people just come along and just play. And they were so successful. And the Cheviot one, which is the photo that you can see on there, they're going to do it again. Like they actually said, we want to do it themselves. I think actually.
I was just going to say that Faye, the district nurse, said that all the people around who really loved it, they said they wished there was more of it.
Yeah. So it's those kinds of things that you provide the space, and then they come, and it's just like it's an opportunity to come together, connect with us. So that's going to be happening again. And then the photo below is another example of that, of the community coming together. This time it was some of the mums and bubs in Cheviot, and that came about. There are a couple of the young mums who live further up towards Conway, and they of course have to travel nearly half an hour to bring a child to the preschool and to their preschool session. And they've got another child, a baby, and then it's like, if I travel again home for half an hour, I'm only at home for about, they've got to turn around and come back again. So they were coming to the library, and then it was just a chatting thing there of like, there are several of us that are in this position. It would be great if we could actually come in earlier and have these sessions and things. And so that's what happened. It was you asked, we supply. And so that's just a group of young mums, bubs, I'm sure there'll be young dads at some stage as well, but it's just that open session, come in and just use that space, which is just, it's awesome. A little bit down the bottom about the Public Libraries Forum. We had, it was in Christchurch, so our staff were able to, about 4, not all at once, but they got the itinerary over 3 days, and they picked out the sessions that they could go to and sort of shared an entrance pass to go into that. On the top of 39, we just talk about the community impact survey which the public libraries of New Zealand put out each year. And we've seen that before, and the link will be available shortly, but there were just some really interesting stats there about what the people who use the libraries find. And things like mental health and connection, that 84% of respondents reported that libraries improved happiness and well-being, and 70% felt a stronger sense of community belonging. And I think that's the kind of things like we just talked about with the Tea and Scrabble, with the different events that happen. It's a safe, welcoming place that people can come to and interact. So it's just really interesting to see those stats. And the upcoming plans and activities, the very first one there, the DigiCoaches. So this is a story where the police actually got in contact with the Colvin, the Amuri library staff, and said, hey, we've got a problem with gun licensing. That people have to have a real me to actually go on to be able to get their gun license. and it just wasn't happening. So people were confident, they were having problem people not having a license. And it all came down to not being able to get onto RealMe and being able to do that digitally and stuff. And so they went to the school and they said, can you help? To go to the library at the school and they said, can you help? And they're like, well, let's look into this. And so they got in contact with Karen and Susie here at the library, and they were like, our digi coaches are now putting some sessions on. So we try not to sort of put them out there as being, do you want a gun? Come onto your library. Different kind of advertising, but trying to sort of really focus on the RealMe side of thing, and that, you know, it's used for other things too. Voter enrolment, which is going to be important this year's election, where you're not going to be able to just roll up and roll on the day. You're going to have to do more. So RealMe is going to become a part. So our digi coaches have been fantastic, but they are going to be finishing with us in July, because we don't pay for them. They come as an MSD project. Hopefully that will roll out again, and we'll keep having people like that, because it's really made a big difference being able to run these kind of programs. So, and the only other one there was on the next page. Upcoming also is our school holiday programs for July, and we've got 2 programs that are happening in conjunction with museum staff. So that's a first. We have museums coming out and do the displays, but they don't usually send staff to run things. And so this time we've got in Amberley, they're doing the Matariki displays and talking about doing some stuff in there with the stars. And in Hamner, they're doing that Meet the Mini Beasts, and they're actually bringing up some of the little display cases with Remolini wheaters and bits and pieces in them. So and it's actually got the Hurunui biodiversity people involved with that one as well. So that's quite a nifty little one that's going on. And unless there's anything else.
If you can answer a question from me from way back in the minutes, can you remind me what was drop and buck? Drop and buck day partnership during the Biodiversity Trust Museum?
Oh, I think that's this, the bug. I think it's this.
That's
coming up.
is that the bugs?
I think it's the bugs. Yeah, I think it's just been it's food. Be me speaking and potentially.
We have any questions for Naomi?
Thanks.
We don't thank Naomi.
Thank you.
Okay, we go to page 40 and ask Dan to come and give a final report on the amenities and
Fantastic. Yes, good afternoon. Yeah, the amenities here is it was a busy month. I guess some of the highlights were the team are on track to deliver their routine maintenance plans. Every year we give them a huge list, about 1,400 tasks to do, and they've gone through and finished the majority of them, which is really pleasing to see. A lot of focus has been on sort of the autumn activities. So the last spraying round has been completed. A lot of tree trimming happening in the district, and generally tidying up with work sort of slowing down a wee bit heading into winter. In terms of the key metrics, what I want to point out is all the quarterly playground inspections were completed. Anything from those was identified and added into the plan to be completed in due course. Moving to page 41. You go into the sort of the seasonality of it. In the CSRs, it's sort of, it paints quite an obvious picture of nearly the team's workload in a way, in terms of especially the reactive stuff. As you're heading towards winter, the number of CSRs really drops, which is good. So it allows the team to concentrate on those routine tasks, and hopefully, the weather plays its part, and they can keep working, not get too wet and cold. The public toilets, we haven't spoken about them much in the last few months. I guess the reason for that is, the look at the audit results, the quality of the cleanliness is still excellent and has been since we've swapped suppliers. So, pleasing to see. And just because we don't talk about it doesn't mean that we're not doing a great job. So I'll just highlight that and just highlight the amount of audits that get done there. In terms of insights, one of the things the team bought this year out of the capital budget is a mulcher. So it's sort of like a little mower you push along. There's a photo of it on page 42. So in our sort of more high profile reserves, you've been going around mulching the leaves, which is obviously can be a very time consuming job. But it's really speed up the task. The likes of outside here by the public toilets, it's being used. So like I said, that's been a really good tool, and
put it to good use. It's put a few hours in already, but it's yeah, had a busy autumn. Yeah, also on page 42, yes, a few photos of what the team been up to. Unfortunately, on page 44, got a few photos of some recent vandalism. So we had yeah, two different ones, one at Chisholm and one at St Anne's, and it's just a real shame. And the ratepayer bears that cost of repairing these. And it's just yeah, it's mindless, really. You know, setting toilets and lights and stealing electrical equipment, pumps. It's yeah, it's not great. Like I said, we obviously go through and we repair and move on, but it's still yeah, not nice to see and a bit hard. Some St Anne's is really is out, not in the middle of nowhere, but it's yeah, so it's, it is a shame to see.
Just before you go on to your program, is any questions on the amenities side of things?
So I'm not sure if it comes up or not. It came up at the Amiri Community Committee about spraying of footpaths. Is it under your department? Correct. Yeah. That there seemed to be quite a lot of overspray. Is that something you're aware of?
Yeah. So through the chair. So yeah, the contractor went out. They were sort of rushing the deadlines. It was a contractor issue where they've literally, I think, all of Amberley has been overspray. Traditionally, it's never been a problem. It was a bit windy, probably this far. A lot, especially I've only seen the ones here, and we're over. So the contractor's going to go through their cost and reseed and get that sorted. So they were spraying when they probably shouldn't have been, and it's caused issues. They'll go through and rectify those issues. So it's been raised and it'll get fixed. I wasn't aware of ones in Murray, but ones in England. So
Colbert and Rotherham has been issues.
So then, can you clarify, were they spraying the grass edge or were they spraying, because I've had just two confused, were they spraying the algae on the footpath?
They do both. So
Same.
edging and trimming, and then also the algae. I don't know what spray it was this time.
It was all that happening sort of along the path sort of thing, so there's probably a few wave going on.
Cruising around it.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Chair, I know I've spoken with the parents about this, but just don't want to lose sight of it, that's the Punamu in Chamberlain Park. When I last talked Chinese and the concert team, and probably within about 3 weeks ago, but the Punamu is severely compromised on the surface and it needs a what's the name of that stuff? I asked the specialist team when we did our museum of how to cleanse the top of, because it's got wouldn't say it's mold, but it's probably environmental, whatever, but it needs the surface of the piece of Punamu needs to be managed. So I just wanted to keep it in our line of sight.
I'll talk to the team and make sure
I can give you that stuff.
Doesn't sound like a conference spray job.
No, and the team at the museum told me that it's a very gentle approach that you need to take with the surface of the Punamu. I just don't want to lose sight of it because I was a little embarrassed on the day that I took them off. I thought, gosh, it just doesn't look
Dan, I won't get hung up on it, but I just noticed from the key metrics, the minor works out of 17.5 were not met after the discussion we had with the contractor. Given that as fast as it was, I imagine perhaps that might last to mention with the contractor.
Yeah, it's those discussions are ongoing, and we're doing it, but we're going to do a bit more joint work as well. Sometimes things fail, but they fail for a reason as well. But it sort of comes down to their own staff filling in our forms correctly. So if they couldn't mow because it was too wet, they need to tell us. We obviously go there afterwards, say, oh, it was too long to fail. But when they fill it, form fail. So they're doing a bit on their side as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair, in relation to the vandalism on page 44 and the images that we've got here in this document, do we put those images out on our social media and say, hey, Huranui ratepayers, this is where your money's going. You've got idiots who are causing this sort of damage. and perhaps you need to get some people to pull their heads in, maybe couch it in different language. But I do think that we need to show our residents and the ratepayers here what's actually going on and what the council are having to deal with. And this is a really good example of what you guys are having to pick up all the time.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Chair, I will just say, I completely agree. However, in the past, sometimes it can be seen as a double-edged sword. And it opened, so we've put some stuff out in the past that people have decided to then to have a crack at council about looking after or protecting our assets well enough. So I just want to, that's always in the back of our minds when someone's done damage to our assets, is that opens us up to abuse.
I've always wondered whether a slight tangent to that is whether you use something like that as a please report to people. You know, the people doing the donuts and the spray paint, whatever, is if you show that sort of thing that's going on and just say, look, if you see this, please report it, otherwise people.
Supplementary to that, if I may. Yeah, I do think it's really important that the people in our communities actually know what's going on in their communities. And while we have that great idea of sharing all of the good news, this is bad news that we need to make people accountable for and to make people aware of. And I'm also presuming that this will have been reported to the New Zealand Police and that there'll be a crime report on this, and New Zealand Police should be carrying out some sort of inquiry around it. You tend to know from my experience the types of people that are engaged in this sort of damage, and you can normally pick them up. Am I assuming correctly that it has been reported?
Well, I confirm afterwards. I would imagine so, but yeah, I haven't seen it myself, so.
I guess the problem with something like Hanmer is it's not necessarily local, it's people that could well be visitors, but can be.
In a past life of supervising community service, PD, whatever you call it, in this PC world, a lot of these people, they're looking for work with these people just need a little bit of retraining, because I'm not allowed to use power tools or anything sensible, but different cleaning graffiti and cleaning parks and that they need. And I know usually probation and that are usually shorter places to do things, but turning it right around is once these people tidy up something, they actually become proud of it. And I would suggest that their networks will help to control the, so maybe the relationship is with corrections, because I don't know, they used to have a team that went out of Whiteborough, but maybe we don't have any people doing PD or community service anymore, but that's, is there a relationship, Dan, the dance between to do those works? I know it's Saturday work and that's not conducive to a lot of people, but you've got to take these people taking ownership of what they do, and then the positive is they become proud of what they've actually done and they don't want it to be messed up again. But I'm also conscious if you put something on Facebook about something, then the other ones, the copycats, going, this damn TikTok, they want to be better than the previous guy. So, Steve, I'm not quite sure, because TikTok and it wasn't around any other day, but actually some hard labour and an old cop like Steve, with an army corporal like Dan over there, I'm sure we could pull a few ears off. Oh dear. It works in the past, but all I'm saying is you've actually got a labour source there to clean some stuff up and take, you know, someone's going to take. Otherwise, they just get a week. Or is there no relationship to community service? They used to be.
Chair, yeah, we used to. We have had some work done, particularly down at Amberley Leadfield Beach, I think it's 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago. But as you say, in this busy world, well, it's changed, and what we needed to do was provide 100% supervision. and a lot of the time was at the weekend. And well, where we got to was, it's just quicker for us to get on it, remedy it and move on.
Which, sorry, through the chair, you're missing the point of what I'm trying to say.
I understand what you're saying.
And that supervision can be some volunteers, some lines, well, not necessarily lines, I've done supervision up in Waikato at doing it, you know, so it can be not your paid staff doing the supervision, but it might be the direction. All I'm saying is a relationship between probation or whatever to what jobs you want to get done, because they're trying to find things to do because they kind of, you know. Anyway, I think it's an opportunity, but if you want to change a culture and a habit, unless the community gets involved, how do they change?
Mr. Chair, might I cast out the challenge that if you can find people within your communities that are prepared to supervise these, we can reopen those channels of engagement and see if we can get them back. But we really need people that are, I guess, skilled in the work that they're being asked to supervise and have some degree of supervisory skill in trying to keep these people on task. So certainly we're willing to.
But probation normally has someone supervising and doing the job. The probation have the people coming out. You know, that's what I used to do. There's to come out and you would run the gang of people. And I knew they used to do it at Waipara, and only in the last 5 years. I don't know what work they did. Like this illegal dumping of rubbish. You know, that's a classical easy example. They might as well be picking up shit than me picking it up.
Through Tier and through Jafra, I think a little bit on the Big Pass Railway.
Don't
Yeah,
know.
don't know. I mean, I'm not sure how recent, but they have. So good challenge to us too, if there are people thinking.
So, Dan, we'll let you continue through your program of capital. I know that in the June, there's a big spend. Is that just all the bills come in, or is that a big project finish?
No,
Grand finale.
It's two part. It's sort of June's, you sort of look at June as 2 months.
Yeah.
So June pays all the bills for May. So you finish your working in May, if we invoice it, you pay 20th of June.
Yeah.
But it also pays the bills for July as well. So that money you spent in July, so the work done in June will also be paid in July, all back to this financial year. So you can look at that as, you can nearly split that number in half. But hence why the June spends always the largest, is because one, you've got the two thing, but also, yeah, all the outstanding bills that get chased up. Some contractors also don't want our money because we have to keep going back them, so please invoice us. But yeah, that's one of the main reasons, and also that, you know, a lot of work is still getting completed in May, June. So we've still got a lot of work happening that's getting tied up at the moment. And then, yeah, they go through that process of getting those invoices in. So, yeah, similar to last year, we'll expect a large June, but yeah, sort of the program as itself sort of tracking to, yeah, we expect it to be. And it's also a nice time of year where lots of things are getting completed and long milestones are getting met, which is fantastic. So yeah, I'll go through the upcoming activities sections and go through that. I guess, yeah, one worth highlighting is the reservoir and pump station on Longworks Road in Waikato. So those works all complete. In operation now, so you pump shed, you million litre reservoir, so that's complete, that's running. And today, as we speak, they're cutting in the water main from Hardham to Waikato, so the 7-8 kilometres of that's getting cut in today and completed as well. So all that pipe renewals sourced Waikato Basin all the way through there over the past 4 years. So it's been a lot of time. So it's great to get all the way to Waikato and pretty much finish that work there, which is, you know, a great achievement.
And I would take it that would help any firefighting issues in the future.
Correct. An extra $1 million would definitely help. Yeah. First people.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's fantastic getting that done, but also the pipe as well. Sticking with the pipe renewals, the pipe in Amberley, that all got sort of a couple of weeks, but the contractor's been bit slack in terms of reinstatement. They disappeared, but they've been back last week tidying up, doing all the asphalt and tidying. They'll finish up this week as well, which is great to see. So that's their contract finished as well, and then Colvin. Also got a wee bit of pipe happening at Logan, which is also in their completion at the end of the month. So in terms of pipe renewal contract, which is great to see. Moving away from pipes, we've got some scale protection work happening out Ramatic Road. The last site's there, so they're out there at the moment cleaning that, and that should be done end of this week. Probably a bit more exciting is the Village Green Playground. So if anyone's been past recently, it's really starting to take shape. So all the equipment's there in place. Unfortunately, there was a delay on the wet pool, which is sort of a nice, soft, bouncy sort of look, cushiony sort of full area. So that will get laid on the 6th of July. So initially we thought it was going to get done before the 3rd of June, but it's going to be 6th of July. So that'll get laid. And then after that, we'll look at opening her up. So that'll be fantastic. So it'll be great to get that job done.
We'll go on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's probably all the highlights out of there. I was welcoming questions on any of those projects. There's also some photos on page 46, and then there's the capital program, which provided for information once again happy to answer questions on those projects.
Is that just about the last of the big tanks?
No, we've got budget next financial year for another one on the old Waitolis scheme. So there's money here for that. That's only one. Oh, then there's more in Canberra as well. So more storage required in Canberra, but one for growth. So Canberra is going to be the big drive for storage in the next few years.
Questions, Vince?
I just see the Jed River improvements. I hope you didn't spend 92,000.
You'll be pleased to hear we didn't. We sent it out. We'll spend probably a third of that.
I think that was fair enough. Because you didn't go very far.
Right.
Yeah, but over here, so a third of that would be 30,000.
That was less than that now.
That is ripple. Sad straight. To me, the local contract have done that for 8,000. I just put my hand in there. I see where the work is, it's not very far. And where did the money come from? Did it come out of the Jed?
No, it comes out of the stormwater account. The stormwater account. So that's why
You get some of that below the bridge. Coming out the Jed River. Yeah. I think we should talk to each other. It's just the way that job was done, I thought was
Then can I ask, just from your capital program there, is there any update on the tendering Queen Mary Sarah?
Yeah, so we went through a expression of interest, got 10 really good submissions, we shortlisted down to 4, and invited them to price, that will be decide, look at, and we are expecting them on Friday. Yep, so moving along, so we'll have the price, and we can go from there.
Any further questions? Thank you very much. It's your final report for us too, and understand you're moving on to other changes, and wish you well on that. Said Alex earlier on, you here, I think you're what, 7 or 8 years?
7 years, yeah.
7 years, and it's been pretty unprecedented, some of the building and projects that have been done in that time. So you've sort of been, sort of a dynamic duo really over that. We're very grateful to have both teams have done a fantastic job. So we wish you well. Thank you for everything you've done so far.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay, half an hour ago, so if we can now go and give our questions to the end and ask for Joe for the community team on page 51. Well, Joe.
I'll take the report as read, but there's a couple of areas I just wanted to highlight. The first being under the highlight section on page 51. May was a great month for some of the campaigns, so we had Road Safety Awareness Week, and I just wanted to note there the partnership with our communications team. They did a big series of social media rollout with 8 posts over the week, featuring various different topics which are listed on the page after. But just noting that Emma, the road safety coordinator, put a real focus and emphasis on all demographics for this one. So there was some flavour for early childhood through to the schools, and then the older persons initiative. And that one in particular piggybacked onto the Staying Safe course in Waikari, offering some driver lessons through Eyes on the Road driver training. Graham Daly, who is an Amberley local and does a lot of work with us, he took out some over 65s for some refresher driving lessons around the district, and the feedback for that was really positive from those individuals. So in looking at how to incorporate that moving forward, and NZTA in particular were pleased with that initiative because it's quite different to what's previously usually been done. Moving through that, we celebrated Youth Week, and that was fully funded this year by external providers. So a real shout out to Amuri Irrigation, Toa Farms, and Aratai, who's the peak body for youth work, supplying the funds to make that happen. We actually had an abundance and an overflow of meat. So Patola have agreed, and alongside Harris Meats and Cheviot, to utilise that food for the upcoming July holidays. So that will reduce the cost significantly with food bill there. And I wanted to really highlight the Amberley Community Garden. Hopefully most of you will be aware of that initiative, coming out of the Food Secure North Canterbury Forum last August, with some real energy by some locals to develop that. And it's really great that we just celebrated the first planting day. The journey of that group has been great, and I think from council's involvement, from Councillor White on the group, but also from Jackie and our team alongside helping navigate some of the aspects of council that can often be tricky when you're in community. So how to get water supply in, how to get insurance sorted, all those sorts of things. It really demonstrates where our team can come into play with working alongside community groups. I won't take too much about age friendly because I know Naomi has mentioned around tea and Scrabble, but there's been a flow on from the different initiatives in that space. And Together Hurunui is growing Great Brains in Calderwood in May. That particular activity had a really low registration rate the weekend before it was due to happen. Of 4 or 5 registrations on the Thursday. So Nat connected more with the school and the PTA, and they turned around 33 turned out the following Wednesday for that event. And for us, that really demonstrates that actually how we partner more with our stakeholders and lean into them and vice versa to get these initiatives running well. Those are the ones I really wanted to highlight on that page. Just taking you over onto the metrics page. If there's any questions there, I can take those. But just the very last one with MTFJ, they put a lot of emphasis into, and has been supporting a lot of young people preparing for work, but also in work with upskilling their training. So forklift license, chainsaw license, driver licensing. There's been a real energy in that space. And moving across to page 53, just coming down to the last point on that first sort of paragraph around the older person social work. And I know I mentioned it at the end of the last meeting because it just been announced that funding had been secured. But I think through Together Hurunui, that's a real celebration of where the partnership with Nemari, with the Together Hurunui, with the medical centres and those stakeholder employees identifying a gap and seeing things across the district. There's a real mobiliser to that project, and then subsequent conversations with funders, DIA, to secure that funding. So that job's now being advertised. So that's really exciting, and I think a project that Together Hurunui are really proud of, working in partnership with medical centres, because that's going to make a real difference to our older persons having a social worker working in our community. I have got on here one thing that wasn't on this report because it got announced in June, but just to update this committee is that North Canterbury Budgeting Services have announced closure after 46 years of operation for North Canterbury, which following 2023, the funding contract with MSD finished, and they've been working to maintain that financial mentoring in community, but at the same time work on what that transition out looks like. So from the 1st of July, and the upside is that Salvation Army will be picking up that money, so in that financial mentoring, and that provision is for Waimak and Hurunui. So we'll be connecting with Barry, the manager, as soon as this week sort of under the table with this initiative to look at what does that look like for Hurunui in terms of the budgeting services, particularly in the current climate, as you will have seen in some of the emerging issues, financial pressures on families and the accessing our food banks, reducing the amount of travel into town to access sports activities. All those financial pressures are clearly being seen across our community. So we really want to make sure we can utilise that support as it comes in. And then just flicking across the page, there's some images and some media showcases there. Just on the activity snapshots at the bottom of page 54, the two descriptors are the wrong way around. So the first one is actually HYC, the other one is HYP. And I just want to note the HYC, you'll see it's a lit up room but very dark outside, and our youth council are doing a lot of work out of hours in the evenings, meeting with different people to progress their portfolio groups. There's quite a bit of energy in the biodiversity space which REMET is supporting with. So they're just applied for 3 years with some funding to do some work along that corridor by the back of Amberley Domain. And also the upcoming Brunanga, there's a lot of youth engagement in planning that camp that's going to happen in July. And then just moving across the page, we've got SEED graduation, which actually takes place this week. But during May, there's some images there of visiting the airport and the museum, and this sparked particular interest in one young person with engineering. So they've subsequently been to Anna and have looking at signing up for the July intake course. So that's really nice to see that really live in action, that program, inspiring somebody to then look at their next opportunities. And then, so Naomi's already talked to the tea and Scrabble, but some beautiful pictures there, and then our upcoming table of activities. Who has any questions from anything in the report?
I just seeing key social pressures. Since the police have pulled a bit back about with, family violence, have you noticed an increase in pressure on other agencies or?
So through the chair, yes, I mean, police are still responding, and I think our local police are still providing a lot of support in that space. But our family harm service, recently we met with Coralie, one of the workers who comes into the district, and they are seeing an increase in individuals accessing their support.
Because,
yes.
Because I know talking to the ex-Cheviot policeman, he said, half his time spent with family violence. And I kept thinking, man, we're going to have a hole of that. There's a person that was more or less half his full-time job was doing that. So who's going to do it?
Through the chair, I think ongoing conversations with police and together Hurunui continuing that space and advocating for those services. And they really supported exploring what that might look like moving forward.
Joe, in the page 54, when we raised my eyebrows, I sort of explain I might be misunderstanding it. To hear the Hurunui food schools, and in particular, a preschool. What is that? Who's spending what money for the year for that? I'm just sort of looking at if a preschool is having to spend that much money to feed kids that get up, should they be charging the preschool fees? I'm just like, where's that coming from? I just thought a preschool spending that. What's it telling us?
So through the chair, that's a really good question. This particular preschool is a community preschool, so they don't provide or charge for food, where other preschools often provide meals for families. This preschool has come on as quite an exception to the program because of the challenges they have been seeing. This particular spend is peaked because there was they received a freezer and there was a lot of purchase of made and prepared meals that they can give to families. They've also been connected with the food bank and Food Satisfy, so that just because that spike was obviously alarming to the team as well. But that's, yeah, I mean, Kelly from that preschool is doing an immense amount. We're supporting those families. Yeah, but that initial spike in spend was getting them set up with a freezer and a number of provisions.
So we're establishing a preschool that's there to cope with a certain group that's struggling, or is it just the way it's worked out? I just sort of, I wonder, whether we're creating a situation where there's an expectation, you know, that you go to school, you're going to get lunch for real, things that didn't used to happen. So is it need, or is it, yeah, I'm just interested in how we've ended up there.
Yeah, for the chair, so it is need response. It's not being dished out to everybody. It is around, and with all the schools, it's with them having identified specific groups of children that are coming to school and preschool with empty bellies, and they're providing something for them. So alongside that, there is some discussions and education and tapping families into other support. As I say, that particular one and spike is around the initial setup. But the reality is, and particularly in Amberley, is we are seeing a huge uptake of this in the school as well. But also when we look at our food bank stats, they're seeing a spike there in Amberley.
We had Gary and Laura Love do a presentation to the Lions a few weeks ago. Quite an eye opener. So, yeah, where it's at. Chris.
Sorry, just a comment. I just see on that graph that you've got a Muri area school, and then a couple of lines down, you've got a Muri.
Yes, for this year, I think what's happened is we've combined two graphs here, because at Leafield School, which should stop here. Ones above are the freezer, and the ones below, Amberley below. So Amberley line 5 down is the food in schools. Apologies, that's our graphs been combined to, we've combined two graphs. Thank you. So the top ones are the freezers that sit in the schools.
Yeah, no, just a comment, just to add to Joe's really comprehensive description. The food in schools has been a collaboration with Maintown. So and for food in schools, I think it's probably just really important to identify this, particularly from the minutes and the perception in the community that where that money comes from to do this, provide this for our community is actually through an initiative. Okay, but I think what you're talking about is actually creating independence versus dependence, and that's probably, you know, the subtle question that you're thinking about and identifying, and I think that's a worthy consideration as well. But for the funding for this for the moment is quite different.
This is just a different world to what I was throughout.
100%, that's right. And lack of awareness, you know, by many people in our community about the growing need to support that.
Do we have any further questions for you?
I'm a broken record. We all have a license to operate, and I would say business people should be always helping people without the need. So it's something I teach the village, brings everybody up. some forward. But I'm with Robbie's where I hate that people taking it, just taking it without us helping them. That makes any sense. So and as the kids, I really feel sorry for the kids from have the parents that don't have the ability or the need to be to do the right thing or get to have the job. But step back, any of us that have got the ability, we help somebody, we change. So the community helps. So, and it's as individual businesses and people, we need to do it. And it's not necessarily even any state that needs to do it, it's individuals. We need to be the mentors and the role models if those parents can't do that job.
No further questions? Thank you very much, Joe. Appreciate that. So now if we could go to page 56. Theory to, I think it's been backed up by Andrew, well, looks of it, but we've got the thing here to go for granted.
Sure, everyone. A short report, just to take you through it. There were 5 consents issued during the period, of which 3 were land use, 2 were subdivisions. And then the upcoming planned activities, there's ongoing monitoring with Mount Cass. You'll note there's a comment there, the fencing of the conservation management area is being fenced off. That was part of the work that's been completed. And then the major update is the hearing for the Farnell Solar Farm has been adjourned. In the hearing. And that's the report.
Yeah, no further date, litigation set.
No further date.
Okay, so it's just. Any further questions? Okay, yeah. Just as a plan.
Just as a plan.
That's report ever.
This next one will need a bit of time,
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, well, if we could go to page 57 and ask Ian to come and do his communications and engagement report.
I just wanted to kick off, there was a couple of questions asked at the end of the last ops meeting around for and against with switching off Facebook comments and things along those lines, and also for the intros or how we frame some of the posts we put out. So had a little look through there. Some of the things that came back from the wonderful internet, at least, was selective commenting. At least, I guess if we do get a really contentious post, then we may consider switching off comments, but we would leave those open. One big thing that came through, which I think we'll look to do, because it frustrates me when people do comment on posts, and we do have various channels for them to come back to, is for us to pin a post on Facebook saying, here's where you go to put your formal feedback in. And just to remind folks also around moderation, keeping it clean, keeping it above board, and so on. And also the framing of those posts, which I think you sort of talked about, is to, no, it's not dressing it up, but at least if we're going to acknowledge the reality of the situation that people are going through, talk about the bigger purpose, show the awesome work that we've done as a team. I think another one is make it tangible. What's the outcome? If you can show pictures or show there's some really good stuff that's been going on, and then the next steps, rather than just here it is, fait accompli, done. So thank you very much for raising those in the last session. I kicked off, I wanted to emphasise community engagement, big part of the role that we're doing, especially during May. It's always interesting sitting at the 23rd of June when so much water under the bridge. Road safety was a big week for us. We were all over the traps. There was reading, there was driver education. There were a lot of social posts that went out. You would have seen in the community section there, all of those social media posts around the driver education activity. We were doing water harvesting, and of course, considerable amount of feedback around the draft annual plan that came in. A number of those things are around dog park, I believe, that is to come. We also talked about the launch of the Huranui Community Dashboard. I believe, for those who haven't seen it, at least it's on the front page of the website. I'm sure you all have. There's a pretty picture of that over on page 58. Huranui District Council's Community Dashboard. It's actually called Statistical Dashboard on the front page of the website. It's a fantastic resource.
You need to look at it.
Yeah, oh, it's huge. Individual household dwelling data. We've got school enrollments in there, as well as the Stronger Huranui Wellbeing Survey. We've got some activity coming up as put forward by Joe. It's basically to drop in some of those interesting tidbits that have come out of the survey in the next six to 8 weeks in the lead up to when the next wellbeing survey goes out, just to raise the profile, so we can get a whole heap more responses to that. So that's a really, really good resource. Simplifying local government, that had just kicked off, at least in a out in the public realm since at the end of May. I put in there over a short time frame, the comms team, we put a whole heap of effort in for building web resources, social resources, flyers, that kind of thing, to get folks onto the drop-in sessions. I've got a bit here in the challenges and risks. I'll just continue down the page. Again, working closely in with community team, MTFJ, some amazing work going on there. I know that Christchurch City Council are sort of interested in some of the work that's been happening there, and may ask Anna for some tidbits on how she does such a great job. And also a lot of work again with Hikura Huranui Water Services, and looking post July 1st, how we interact, who is doing what for them, how we work, ways of working, website, social media presence. So we'll go to challenges and risks. I talked about simplifying local government drop-in. Yeah, probably 2.5 days notice for that first Amberley session probably wasn't ideal. Things were moving pretty quickly. Moving forward from that, 6 and 7 days notice for Uncovered and Waikari, 4 and 6 for Omahi and Shedia, 5 days for Hammond Springs, many channels used, Facebook, out to the committees as well. We used Antenno for that handler session, and generally to advise folks on the closing of feedback, which was for the 21st of June. As I said here, folks just wanted to engage and have their say. I found personally that the response was respectful and grown up, and people just wanted to be there and just, I guess, maybe feel in control of their destiny. And I thank all of the councillors who were able to make it along to those sessions. Somewhat cold and dark, but you guys are probably used to getting out there and speaking to people under some difficult circumstances. Antenno is frustrating and disappointing, much like Field of Dreams. They say build it and they will come. Not necessarily so, just to have the service out there. It needs continual promotion. We have some stuff happening on Facebook around competitions. There's going to be a major design relaunch for Antenno, new colours basically. And we've got a whole asset or suite of assets from the great people at Datacom in order to promote that. So hopefully that will boost things a little. Some of the responses that we've had, or people looking at our Antenno reports, I think I put in the insights at least, when there was a water outage and folks who were in that particular street, 100% of people looked at that post and went, oh, okay, why? Because it was critical and it was important to them. Even the feedback for the draft annual plan, we had 63% people across Hiranui looking at that post. So it's valuable. It just needs continued promotion through our various channels, perhaps a little spent on some promotion through newsletters and such. Also, folks are signing up as an example. I think for May, we're 38 installs and 19 people uninstalling at the same time. So I think there's a bit of work to be done to find out why. They're just not understanding it, they're not enjoying it, they're getting too many notifications. That's part of the process. I'm determined to see this succeed. Cost savings, videography, we're upping our game very definitely. We've got a lovely bit of kit, we've had some excellent training I put in here, which was covered by another bit of funding, which has been absolutely fantastic. So we'll continue to raise our game there. We also managed to get a whole new revamped logo suite, which is quite nice with a few different options. I hate seeing those blocks sitting on flyers. I like it to all be nice and good looking. I said here Pink Shirt Day, there's a beautiful picture there. The team, I had to tell a few people to take their jackets off. I hope that wasn't bullying. But yeah, great message, really important. People love that. Again, on socials, MTFJ, we talked about it. They love a success story. It's wonderful to see some of the folks who've gone through MTFJ and have ended up working for HTC, even KDC. I mentioned the feedback from Antenno, where it is important to people, they're really picking it up and enjoying it. One of the things that I've heard, well, I'll just go ahead, we'll get there. One of the things I've really enjoyed in tuning into this session today is how much comms and engagement are involved in all of the activities that we've heard before. Andrew here talking about the household glass recycling campaign. That's been a big thing. It's been nice to have funding from Ministry for the Environment to do a really good job on that. And I think, you know, there's a bar there. Let's see if we can sort of push some of our own stuff up there. Draft annual plan came together. Volunteers Week has been happening last week. Really great responses online. People love great story. And we look, I guess, at simplifying local government and what the next step is in our community engagement for that. Was to say, you do it. Thank you.
I was just waiting for the.
The question I was going to ask you, you know, you've got 63% of it using the district. How many actually in the district are registered for it?
Oh, I'm going to say a poor number, 434, I think we're at. Yeah.
So there's not many at all?
No.
So really the statistics don't mean anything?
Through the chair, they are accurate.
Look at us behind you.
Behind me.
Some councils will remember when we first took on SnapSend Sol. It took us almost 2 years to get a reasonable number of people signed up. You know, I think such it's a tool, and if it's useful, people will sign up and they'll use it. I mean, we end up being in a district that was great SnapSend Sol users. We ended up actually winning Australasian prizes for the use of SnapSend Sol. The density of company SnapSend Sol we have. I think people of the Hiranui district will find this an even more useful tool, but it takes a little while to change things around.
Just why I asked that question, because we had that drop-in session, like actually it was 2, and then I got a rung by people saying the next we didn't know it was on. You know, so I'm just saying there wasn't the communication out there, and they were all people that would have come along to it, but they didn't know it was on.
Yeah, thanks through the chair. I think, you know, to respond to that, first of all, we're under a bit of pressure with time. It's not like we can get it into our publications to do these drop-in sessions, but I just wanted to talk about Antino, because I'm doing my bit to promo it, and you know, I'm taking the little flyer every time I go to a meeting, and I just go, hey, Antino, let's sign up. But what I did notice, I was driving home from council, I think last Tuesday, or potentially the Tuesday before, and there was an ad on Compass FM for Snap Send Solve. And it may have been, because I was like, what the heck? And it may have been that was related to the Waimakariri, but I think there's a little bit of a, if I'm still hearing that on the radio, then so are our constituents. So I don't think the message is out there yet that Snap Send Solve for us is no longer going to be a viable option. So I just wanted to highlight that could be part of the, and as Hamish said though, we can all do our bit and promo it, and if you talk to 2 people and they talk to 2, there's another 4. So yeah, but maybe we need to have a look at Compass.
Snap Send Solve is a private company and they'll place advertising wherever they choose to place advertising. It was a tool that we used, it's promoted nationally in Australia and New Zealand. And so they'll just continue to advertise. They're told when you go to use Snap Send Solve, Whanganui District Council won't come up, so you can't Snap Send Solve it. It'll be interesting because Waimak will, if they move to Antino yet, they will be moving to Antino very shortly.
I would say.
As part of their datascape implementation. So I'm similar to Waimakariri will be,
Yeah, I think what piqued my interest was I'm sure that it mentioned Waimakariri and Haranui, like specifically. So I don't know if it was a direct one, but I mean, if they are continuing to advertise, and as you say, they're private, they will, then maybe we need to counter that with our itinerary. Yeah, because if people are hearing that, then
Yeah, I mean, give me some info, I'm happy to make it a major topic for my weekly tomorrow, at 10:09.
Potentially Tom might be able to do that too.
I just my wife tells me, she's the district nurse, she said there's a lot of older people that aren't tech savvy and they don't have Facebook and they don't do that. And we've got to be careful. You people sit on computers all day and think everyone else does. But 70–80% of the population out there don't look at their screen all day and all that. And so, you've just got to remember that, and there is other ways of communicating.
Could you expand on, you said that you've used it around Hammer? I think, how did that work? Because I can tell you again, we do all these different forums, some of what Vince is saying, but I still maintain that till we get to do a direct text or email directly to somebody, we're not like personally invited there, but not really. We're putting something general out. So I don't know how we work that, but down the track, I still believe we need to work towards being able to directly invite someone to something, whatever. But how did you work it for camera?
It was a general post out to the Haranui district. It was a twofer, and I guess that sort of goes against if you want one message to get across, you don't throw somebody 17 tennis balls. But I wanted to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So one message out to the Haranui district, focusing on the Hanmer drop-in, which was the final one that we also Hanmer Springs drop-in. And the second part of that message was feedback's closing on Sunday. So didn't do it for the others. We should have. Didn't. Note to self: keep up with those posts.
That only goes to somebody that's downloaded and
100%. That is only. Yep. So the rest we would hope in the 14, well actually the now 15,000 people that follow our Facebook page would have seen those other posts that we put out specifically for the meetings. We went to community pages to the point that was raised earlier for some of the other meetings for
Day late to Colwell. It's a day late to Colwell.
Was it?
came on the post the day after the meeting.
Oh, okay.
Cause you gotta, a moderator's gotta let it get in, so you needed to be a few days beforehand.
Okay, that's good to know.
Okay, 5 minutes into the break, is there any further questions for the?
Just on that antenna one, I don't know if I've downloaded or what wrong, but I do get a post every Wednesday to say rubbish and recycling is tomorrow. And the problem is our rubbish and recycling day is Monday.
Oh, okay.
So,
That's interesting.
yeah.
Okay, which, may I ask, do you have, Hurunui District Council as a place of interest? Sorry, the Hurunui region as a place of interest, or what are your places of interest? May I ask?
Why don't you take it offline?
I could take it off you, that's right.
Yeah, I guess the point is that the
I'd be
information
interested
on
to
there
know.
needs to be
Yep.
right for
Yep.
people.
Yep.
Okay.
Sure.
No further questions. Thank you very much, Betty. Check this again. I'm sure it'll grow.
Yes, it will. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so now I'm looking for a mover and seconder of the operations report. We have it now because I managed to sit in the seat there. We're running out of time for the operations report on page. I see that escapes me, but I have it clean. Oh, manager, take us through that one.
I'll take us through the two things in May. Measures, so in May, 4.1 hours for median resolution time for urgent faults as against target 4 hours, so 0.1 hours out there. I know that the kind of cumulatives that can't be measured due to datascape transition. That's about the two systems putting it together, so not a problem with datascape. Recycling volume, it's target 31, so 1% under on the target. Recycling. No datascape issues here.
On that, I'll have a movement second for the see that. Steve and Paul. So now we can put out page 61 to our action sheet. First item there, I imagine that that's just going to sit there, there's no update on the trees.
There isn't, no, I've had chased for an update. We're just waiting on the landowner to.
Another. Yeah, that's what I just getting. Second item around the dogs, that's still ongoing. Never move that one there at the stage. Actually, part of that, which is I don't know because it's just the town's talking about, there's quite a bit of chatter around where you're on leads and where you're not on leads. People complaining that they're walking the dog, someone else is dog down off the lead and there's problems. So I think, for example, co-op track, we decided they don't have to be on the lead or some different rules here. Co-op track dogs on lead or off lead.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I did send that email to you
Yes.
last week, which was under voice command was Andrew's advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, just in regards to that, because there were some issues down at Leithfield, and so what they did is they just popped up a link to the dog areas. Sorry, I forget what the dog bylaw for their. They just popped it up as a link on the community page. No comments, just here's the information. So it was simply an information sharing, in case people don't know. So yeah, just an idea. If people don't know, we could just share it.
Okay, so we leave that one there in the meantime, and we've added on. What have we added on?
They have a few pages, but he's not.
So if there's no further items, then I think I'll need mover and seconder for that. Chris? And Chris? And. All in favour? Aye.
Of everything.
All in favour of everything we've both said this morning.
So councillors, when you go for lunch, you might have a look into a device and see it's been bomb free at various schools, et cetera. We receive the same bombs through here, reported to the police. No protection.
Right, I think you've got.
3 minutes.
20 minutes.
No,